Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of College Park. I'm Mayor Bianca Motley Broom. We have a full quorum present with council members Clay, Karn, Allen, thank you, and Gay. So I will call the meeting to order at this time at 7:36 p.m. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The invocation is being handled by Chaplain McKenzie this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and all that are present today. Let us pray. Eternal, everlasting God, you are God, and there is no one else. You have commanded that in all things we give you praise. So we thank you for your presence this evening as we come before you with our petitions. We are grateful for your loving kindness and tender mercies that you bestow upon us. We thank you for the opportunity that you have given us to stand within your presence in this place and as a people that are wholly committed to the city that we love. We acknowledge you as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. For it is you who rule and super rule. Our life and our times are within your hands. You set one up and you take another down. You establish seasons and purpose and remind us that there is a time for everything under the sun, which you have created in your grandeur and your glory. You have made us fearfully and wonderfully. You have ordained us to be the instruments of your will. We are your hands and your feet, and it is through us that you demonstrate your grace and kingdom on earth. Now, Holy God, we yield our thoughts and desires to you, for without you, we can do nothing. The earth and its fullness belong to you. And this city and the people that dwell herein belong to you. You are the potter and we are the clay. And except you build this city, all our labor is in vain. We beseech you for your divine intervention in this meeting tonight. We pray for wisdom, courage, and understanding for our elected officials. Wisdom to hear you and to follow your direction. Wisdom to know when to speak and how to speak and when to refrain. Courage to stand boldly but with humility. Courage to take the high road and to govern for the greater good in the best interests of our neighbors. Understanding on how to work together in unity. Understanding of the role and the calling you have placed on their lives for such a time as this. We pray for the peace that surpasses all understanding. We bind the very hand of the enemy that comes only to steal, to kill, and to destroy. We cast down imaginations and everything, every high thing that exalts itself against your knowledge. And we bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. We remind the enemy of our peace and our progress, that you are defeated and that the God of heaven and earth reigns in Georgia's global gateway city. We thank you for our mayor, and we thank you for our council members who have pledged themselves as servants to our community. We thank you for their labor of love in both the good times and the bad times. We thank you for their commitment and the sacrifices each of them make in order to ensure that we experience safety, prosperity, and an improved quality of life. We declare and decree tonight that policy will be set and decisions will be made that create a municipality where all can thrive and live together, which was desired by our forefathers, the founders of this great nation, who stood on your promise and pledged that all men are created equal, that we are all endowed by you, our Creator, with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Help us to govern ourselves as one race, which is the human race. We are one race, we are one people, we are one city with one vision and one goal, which is to glorify you with our hearts, our minds, and through our actions. We pray for the brilliance of your light and your illumination. Bless our city staff and every person that is attending this meeting this evening. May we leave from this place, but not from your presence, at the conclusion of this gathering, knowing that we fulfilled your mission of taking care of the business of your city with respect for one another and in fairness, equity, transparency, integrity, and inclusion with excellence and purpose. We ask these prayers in the mighty name of the Rose of Sharon, the bright and the morning star, the lily of the valley, the light of the world, everlasting God, and the Prince of Peace. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Hawthorne, any additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda?
I have none, Mayor.
Any from the body?
I do have an announcement, and City Clerk, I want to make sure this is on the record. You know, as one of the city's representatives, it's part of my job to keep the city moving forward. The question has been lately in terms of what direction have we been moving in. Obviously, we don't want to move towards a two-tier system of any bias in any way. We've had some issues with some of us having issues there. But before I would let any one particular individual push this governing body further towards any treatment, you know, I will put on the brakes. And I make no apologies whatsoever for a moment of pause. In particular, if it's necessary to avoid an impending issue. So I have no issue with calling a timeout so that we can take a moment to reflect on how we've been conducting these meetings and how we're going to move forward. And that means moving forward, in my opinion, with a return to fairness, equity, which we have not had with this elected body, in my opinion, for the past few years. I have and always will be about the business of this city. As I have served this community well over the years, and I continue to work hard and serve. But it is my hope that we at some point in time are able to conduct equitable city council meetings where every elected official's voice is heard and respected in a more even-handed, equitable fashion. The question is, how do we get there? Well, I would dare not assume to have the objective wisdom to make that determination myself, but I can tell you this. I think how we conduct these meetings is going to be contingent on if we're all respected at the same level. And that's going to mostly depend on if the mayor changes the way we conduct these meetings or not. And I wanted to put that out there just to let you know where I stand. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Any additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda? Hearing none.
I did have an addition to the agenda. I want a discussion on a gun buyback event.
And where would you like that put, sir?
Wherever, city manager, I think wherever, as long as it's before the budget, be nice.
And Mayor, would be just after the consent agenda is the first item under other business.
Mr. Hawthorne, I apologize. Hard to hear you.
Sorry. If Councilman Carn wants the item prior to the proposed budget, then it would need to come immediately after the consent agenda. So it would be the first item under other business.
So item 6A is discussion of a gun buyback program. And then all other matters are bumped accordingly. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion by Councilman Carn, seconded by Councilman Gay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. The agenda is amended accordingly. Item 3A is a motion to approve the minutes from the regular session from June 5th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. We'll move on to item 3B, approval of the workshop session minutes from June 5th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Councilman Gay, what is your vote?
Approve.
Thank you, sir. All right, so all are in favor. That is unanimous as well. We're moving on to remarks of citizens. Ms. Ames, can you let everyone know the parameters of the discussion?
Good evening. So if you were here before 7, you had the opportunity to sign in via the sign-in sheet on the podium, or you could have emailed your comment in before 7:00 p.m. The first comment I have is from Patricia Johnson-Ware to discuss general. Okay, moving on, I have, oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Evening.
Ma'am, can you make sure that the microphone is close to you? Thank you so much.
I'm here because I've overheard some information about the College Park Housing Authority was going to be sold to an entity. So I'm trying to figure out, is that true, or are we going to be moved? Or could you enlighten me on any information about what you know about that?
We don't respond to public comment. It's not a back and forth,
Okay.
but we can get someone from staff to respond to your concerns, and if we can get her information to make sure that we are responding appropriately. Mr. Hawthorne?
Yes.
To make sure you,
Thank you, Mayor Broom.
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, next I have Ankit Patel to discuss real estate. Next, I have Bobby Taylor to discuss real estate. I think these was on earlier.
I think this was an executive session discussion.
Next, I have Rex Willis, John Calvin address, and to discuss general. Rex Willis. Sabrina Willis, to discuss general. Shanice Lewis, to discuss general. Louis Garcia Jr. Pamela Greer. Jean Hubert.
What was the name again? I'm sorry.
Jean Hubert.
Janine? Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you for allowing me to address you. I don't want to get emotional, but since I moved into College Park and
Could you,
In October of 2020, I moved into an estate house that's been in my family since 1999. I've owned several properties. I was a real estate investor for 15 years. And since I've moved here, I've experienced some things that are so out of the ordinary. I've been thrown in jail, and I have a spotless record. I've never been in trouble a day in my life. I've been thrown in jail. I've had code enforcement to come and try to, well, they actually wrote me up and gave me tickets for the oddest things. All of it applied to businesses and not homeowners. Code enforcement director that retired, Oscar Hudson, came and spoke to me about my fence because someone had complained, and he said that it was not a code violation because I did not construct the fence. I removed the fence and put one back in the exact same place. I've had police to show up at my house with the code enforcement director, Tasha, I think her first name is Tasha. She came to my front door, and she stood at my front door 30 to 40 minutes with 2 police officers. I've lived in 5 counties, and I've owned 5 properties. I've never had the police to show up at my door. I've never been in trouble for anything in my life. I had 4 police cars around my home one evening, and they steady asked me over and over, whose house is this? Whose house is this? Whose house is this? I called my family. I have family that's in law enforcement. My best girlfriend is a marshal. My brother was just inducted into the Justice Department Hall of Fame, DEA agents and FBI agents. And they tried to calm me down. I said, this is unusual. This is unusual. When they incarcerated me for the first time ever in my life, they never told me what I was charged for. I requested all documentations related to my property underneath the Freedom of Information Act of 1968. I was denied over and over again. I was told that I had to hire an attorney. I hired attorney Stephen Coxon out of Covington, Georgia, paid him. He attempted for an entire year to get his hands on my information. The hearing kept being put off over and over and over. So finally, a year later, when I had a hearing, was finally concrete and was going to be heard, the solicitor listened and she threw it out. She said it was ridiculous. And I just want to know why I was incarcerated and who's behind it and who's behind all these code enforcement bogus violations.
Ma'am, your time is up, and I
I'd like
apologize
to
for
hear
that.
the rest of her statement.
Yes.
Is
And
there
not
a
only
motion?
that, and
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, hold on one moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a motion to extend her time?
I motion to extend her time, and I want to hear from everybody that wants to speak and extend their time.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
nay?
And any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain. I'd kind of like to hear the rest of this one. I don't think we should do that as a policy, but I'd like to hear the rest of this one.
All right, the motion passes. Go right ahead, ma'am.
Thank you very much. And I never got an explanation as to why I was thrown in jail. I'm still working, trying to get all of my documentation to see exactly why. Another thing too is art. I was at the water department today because since I've been living over here for about 4 months, 4 or 5 months, I received utility and water bills, $700, $800, $600, $700, $800, and they have been running like between $100 and $225. So when the water department came out, they said, nothing, you don't have any leaks. So another gentleman came out and he said, Mrs. Hubert, the satellite is misreading. I never received a refund of about $1,900. And so as I went over there today, I have the documentation with me. Those bills that were extremely high miraculously have been removed from the entire printout. But of course, I have the bank statements and the checks to show where I did pay that. And I never got an explanation as to why I was thrown in jail. I never got an explanation with me never raising my voice. The only thing I said was, you know, this is my house, this is my house. I don't even know why they locked me up. And not only that, I never had a harsh word with the code enforcement director, Tasha. So I have no idea why taxpayers' money were wasted because she said I was in violation, and I researched and researched. I could not see of any code violation that I was, you know, violating, because I took pictures of the code enforcement officer sitting on the corner of Mercer and College Park for an hour and a half, and I was paranoid because I had been thrown in jail, so I didn't know if she was standing over there harassing me or harassing my neighbors that were applying siding to the house. And come to find out, she was writing them up for applying siding. Well, they were removing siding and then were applying siding, which we all know that's not a code violation. And the only explanation the code enforcement director gave me for standing, because I was getting dressed, I was in the shower. The yard man told me that it's a lady from code enforcement. She's standing out there with 2 police officers waiting for you, Miss Huber. Then my brother came in after him and said the same thing. And so when I went outside, she had stood out there all that time simply to tell me that it was against the law for me to take pictures of the code enforcement officer. I thought it was a waste of taxpayers' money for her to park over there that long to watch someone, because if you're breaking the law, it's easy to pull it up with computers to just see what, you know, what you're referencing. And I thought it was me. I was paranoid after being thrown in jail for the first time in my life. Never, you know. And the only thing they asked was, whose house is this? Whose house is this? Whose house is this? You know, I've even had neighbors. And I told my family, I said, I've lived in 5 counties, and I did owner occupant in several, because my job moved me from Gwinnett County to down to the south side and things of that nature. And this has never happened. And they tried to calm me down, you know. And that's part of my history too, because I worked for the U.S. Postal Service. I was a technician for 30 years, and I filed cases for 10 years about misappropriation of funds. I showed it to Mrs. McKinney, misappropriation of funds, Social Security, and different, and political mail. And so with me being harassed so much with law enforcement to successfully fight that case, and then to come over here to my home where I wanted some peace and quiet since I was retired, and to be thrown in jail and never given an explanation, and then to be denied all of my rights underneath the Freedom of Information Act. And one young lady finally tried to help me, maybe after a year and a half, and she pulled up the information and she gave me some of what she had. There was no video of the arrest. I had no 911 calls, no record of that. And what she gave me was redacted. A lot of it was redacted.
Can I make one suggestion?
Wait, Councilman, you extended your time. Please let her finish.
If I can make one suggestion.
Yes, sir.
I hear you. Obviously, something is wrong.
Yes, sir.
No question. This is Mr. Hawthorne here. He is the city manager.
Yes,
I think if you talk to him, he would be glad to put together a meeting for you where he can discuss in detail in terms of what's going on and what happened, and one way or another we get it resolved.
Thank you.
And we want to hear from everybody. Now, we're not going to be here all night because we do have other business, but
Ms. Hubert, you've got the floor, though.
All right.
You've got the floor. He extended your time, so go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, and it took me a minute to get, I felt very unsafe, if you could know. And I couldn't understand it. I even waited till the sun to go down to go out and walk at night. You know, it took me a minute, but God calmed me down, you know. And just like with the water, the utility bills, to go there today and to see that that documentation has been manipulated. It shows me paying the $700 and the $800, but then it shows like I was paying $700 or $800 on a zero balance and things of that nature. But I thank you for your time, but that's really all I'd like to address at this moment.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Hawthorne, can you please make sure that you, there we go. All right. Ms. Ames.
Yes, next I have Stacy Walker, 4132 Williamsburg Drive, to discuss RAD and College Park housing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's Stacy Walker Alexander, 4132 Williamsburg Drive, in the great city of College Park. Listen, I am here tonight because, like the young lady just came before me, heard some disturbing news of a pattern that seems to be repeating itself in our city. Some 35 to 40 years ago, the city displaced African-American families in our great city. Black homeowners and many affordable housing residents, notice I didn't call them low-income residents, I said affordable housing residents, were systematically displaced under the guise of airport expansion, what we now call 6 West. Legacy residents were coerced into giving up their legacy. Many families never recovered. The very fiber of our community, if you will, was altered. The fabric was altered. Notice I didn't say destroyed. And here yet again in 2023, it seems that we're faced with the same pattern. However, this time, I remember as a child saying, they're moving all of my family members, and they're doing it again. People that are now in housing are experiencing an abhorrent pattern. Many of these legacy residents, and I brought this shirt because this is the 20th coming home reunion for College Park. Some 285 families are on the back of this. My time is up. Is my time up? Okay, because Pam was giving me her time. We recognize that there is a pattern that has been set here. College Park is on the precipice, or could be on the precipice, of doing something great, which is making sure that our citizens, all of our citizens, not just one segment, all of the citizens can have somewhere to live. I've asked if this RAD program, which is the Rental Assistance Demonstration, which states that this program preserves affordable housing through a conversion of Section 8, which is PBV, Project-Based Voucher, or Section 8, PBR8. A lot of acronyms when we could just have simple language, right? This language tells the people that they're going to be put on a Section 8 type of voucher because the city has no funding to renovate or to upgrade their housing. Not sure how that works. One of the key preservation principles of RAD states that public housing authorities voluntarily choose to convert public housing properties through RAD, which is Rental Assistance Demonstration, in order to preserve, repair, or redevelop the property. Are we adequately doing that? Is that really what's happening right here? Because I see and understand that, again, my citizens, my family, people that I love in College Park are going to be displaced. Is it true? Is there any transparency for the citizens? We all just want to know.
Thank you.
Next I have Danny Patterson, 1642 Vesta Avenue, topic of discussion, general.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Danny Patterson. I'm actually a local practicing attorney, but I stand before you today as a concerned citizen who recently moved to this beautiful city, in fact. I chose College Park because of its rich history, its thriving small businesses, its commitment to diversity, which is seen in the diverse population. I came here to contribute to the growth and progress of this city. I've been inspired by many people who are actually here today, who are longtime residents of the city. One particularly is Mayor Motley Broom, who was integral in my decision to become a resident of College Park. However, I'm deeply troubled by the events that unfolded during the last city council meeting. It pains me to see council members choose to leave a meeting due to a disagreement with the mayor, leaving the council without quorum to carry out the city's business. I believe that this display was unprofessional and demonstrated poor conflict resolution skills. When there is no quorum, it's not just the city council members who suffer, but it's the entire community. The citizens of College Park are the ones who bear the consequence of budgets not being passed, infrastructure not being addressed, and missed economic and growth opportunities for the city. These are issues that directly impact the lives of every individual living here. What troubles me even more is the not so subtle suggestion made by council members that our black mayor, who happens to be a woman, is a racist. As black men, we have a self-imposed obligation to protect black women. Last week's display was the opposite of protection. I'm not suggesting that we not hold one another accountable. I'm all for accountability. But the manner in which it was done last meeting was not conducive to furthering unity and progress. Now, I have known Mayor Motley Broom personally for almost a decade, and I can attest to the caliber of individual she is. The suggestion made at the last meeting was not only inaccurate, but also disgusting. Mayor Motley Broom has shown unwavering dedication to this city and its residents. She has been the driving force behind promoting black businesses, the enhancement of infrastructure, and the cultivation of a diverse and inclusive community. I implore the City Council to reflect on the events that transpired and recognize the impact that it has on our community. We cannot afford to let personal conflicts hinder the progress of this city. Is that my time?
That is your time.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I have Tracy Wyatt, Temple Avenue, to discuss general and fairness, I'm sorry.
Good evening.
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 To the gentleman just spoke, if he want to talk about fairness and equity, I'm available.
Tracy, could you speak into the mic a little more closely?
I said, to the gentleman just spoke, I'd like to talk to him about fairness and equality if he wants to. I've been around a lot longer than he has probably. But at any rate, Councilman Corn, while I appreciate your ability to allow people to speak, I think that's a great thing. But please put a time limit on it. Next time, if you're going to extend somebody's time, I suggest you give them 2 minutes, so that because a lot of people want to speak. But I'm here on behalf of the College Park Citizens Association, the city manager. We want to thank you for coming out and speaking to us on Saturday. It was well informed. The people enjoyed it. And I think our citizens are a lot more informed today than they were Saturday because you came out and educated us. So I just want to, on behalf of the College Park Citizens Association, I want to thank you for coming out and speaking to us.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Ames?
Next, I have Sherry Godfrey, 1966 Lyle Avenue, to discuss general.
Good evening, Councilman and Mayor. My name is Sherry Godfrey. I reside at 1966 Lyle Avenue. It's imperative that the residents of College Park demand a level of professionalism and decorum from its elected officials, as they are representing our city to the metro Atlanta area and beyond. The behavior of Joe Karn and Roderick Gay in walking out of the council meeting on June 5th was deplorable. We do not expect you to socialize as friends in your free time, but while conducting city business, we do expect your capacity to communicate disagreements with respect, restraint, and common decency. It's sad that so many people confuse opposition with racism. One may not agree with your perspective, vote in favor of your proposition, or oblige your requests, but these are not acts of racism. To frame them as such is insulting to actual victims of racism in their fight for inclusion and representation. Thank you for walking out again. There are often comments from this platform claiming favorable treatment and distribution of resources to Ward 1 residents to the detriment of other wards, all under the guise of racial motivations, and this is not true. The reasons for disproportionate of assets, for example, home ownership, in College Park is no different than the rest of the metropolitan area or the nation. Household income, education, civic engagement are just a few examples of great impacts on economic mobility, political influence, and affluency in America. While there's certainly room to argue discrimination towards Black economic advancement on a larger scale, the playbook of white residents versus Black residents is a false dichotomy in College Park. We're primarily a city of Black residents across all wards, so stop throwing the race card in response to hurt feelings when you're admonished for failing to follow Robert's rules. In watching streaming of council meetings, the Black councilmen are ironically allowed more time to comment, pontificate, and ask questions over their white counterparts. One councilman in particular frequently asks a series of questions, half of which the answers are already in written materials. Rather than spend personal time and city resources filing baseless ethics violation complaints against Mayor Broome, please commit to do better, be better. Separate your emotions and personality differences to work together, deliberate, and find solutions. The purpose of councilpersons is to carry out legislative powers of the city government and create a means to facilitate investment and expansion of city resources. Their purpose is not to direct attention to yourselves personally and constantly seek praise from your constituents. When a council is performing effectively and city needs are being addressed in an efficient manner, to most people, council members are faceless, nameless individuals. They share a vested interest, working tirelessly in the background in partnership with the mayor to serve the residents and their community better. In this upcoming election, I look forward to seeing Mayor Broome accompanied by councilpersons who share her commitment to doing the work of progressing the city and not to self-service. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Ames, next. Ms. Ames?
Yes, next I have Charles Washington, 2149 Rugby Avenue. Did you want to speak? He says no comments. Moving on to Kat McQueen, 1965 Loud Avenue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Evening.
Kathleen McQueen, 1965 Lyle Avenue. I decided to stand before you because I could not turn a blind eye to the behavior on June 5th, 2023 council meeting. I am directing my comments to councilpersons Carnes and Gay. There's a saying, politicians make strange bedfellows.
Ms. McQueen, can you please speak to your microphone closer? Thank you.
There's a saying that politicians make strange bedfellows, and you two are wearing the same pajama bottoms. Your comments and behavior were lower than a snake's belly in the mud. My gut tells me your statements were planned for an attempt to smear the mayor in the election year. Councilpersons Carnes and Gay, you are career politicians and fully know Robert's Rules of Order, but you perverted the parliamentary procedures to spew vile and hateful comments toward the mayor. To make matters worse, you walked out, not to return, and that made you derelict in your duties as an elected official of College Park. You neglected the city workers, business owners, citizens by not returning to complete the agenda that impacts us all. The irony is you thought you were coming across as taking a stand, but the strong black men I know would not support your behavior. As a matter of fact, you showed insecurities by walking out. Because when an insecure person knows they're losing intellectually, they escalate to aggression, including insults, innuendos, pouting like a child, and running out. So well done, you truly represent Willie Lynch syndrome. If you think you had a platform The problem is anyone that listens to your hateful insults are no better than you. Good people know the mayor is fair, kind, caring, and honest. The mayor has tirelessly worked for the city. I have seen her walking down Virginia Avenue by herself picking up trash. The only way I see you is in a photo op. Honorable Bianca Motley Broom is a people's mayor. She has the intellect and integrity to back everything she stands for. I'm wearing this shirt, unbossed, for Mayor Motley Broom. May I add, unbothered. Just continue to be great. Lastly,
That is your time.
I'd like to hear the rest of her comments.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
lastly,
Hold on. That's 3 in favor. Councilman Gay, what is your vote?
Thank you. I'm gonna abstain.
All right, the motion passes with Councilman Clay, Karn, and Allen in favor, and Councilman Gay abstained.
Lastly, Councilperson Kern, like you said, it's politics. And you and Councilperson Gay are politicians. But the mayor is a civic leader. You should know the difference. Lastly, a real quick suggestion to the citizens that were concerned about RAD, please come to the Housing Authority Board meetings. They are very informative because what you've heard about RAD is totally inaccurate. You do have a board commissioner that's a resident, and so I highly recommend you come out to the meeting and we'll have more information sessions. But don't let fear tactics scare you into thinking that something is negative is going to happen to you, because it is not. It is for the improvement and the quality of life. Thank you all.
Thank you. Ms. Williams?
Next, I have Marcia L. Knox, 1804 Lyle Avenue, to discuss general.
Mayor, council members, my name is Marcia L. Knox. I live at 1804 Lyle Avenue, and I too witnessed the event of June 5th. And just to elaborate, I'm not as eloquently spoken as as Danny or Kat back there, but it was rather disgusting to watch what you two chose to do at the last meeting. And I say chose because everybody has a choice. And in my thinking, I would beg to say that had you chosen, or had the predecessor to Mayor Bianca been sitting in that chair, you would have chosen a different path. But you chose to behave in a way that was unprofessional, mean-spirited, coming after the pastor here and what she spoke about how to treat one another like we want to be treated and how the Lord want to be treated. You pray, and I think those fell on deaf ears based on what I saw. You guys were disgusting. You are elected officials who appear to have a problem with female leadership who is black. That's not racist. That's your issue with not being able to work under the guidance of a strong black female. Secondly, we voted for her. You guys seem to have the misconception that what happened in the rear view is how the city wanted to pursue growth. We all voted for change. You ran, you lost, your wife ran, she lost. We voted for her because we wanted to move forward. And you guys seem to hold on to the not necessarily the good old boy way, but you guys have a firm grasp on what used to be. What used to be is not what we want. So if what you displayed last meeting, in your mind's eye, you want to be like what we see being played out in a national arena, I ask you, step up your game and go, if you want to be like them, go play with them. Go take that type of behavior to that arena where it's obviously attractive at the moment, because here in College Park, we don't want that. You know, good neighbors make for good communities, and good communities need good leaders, and we need good forward-thinking leaders, and we have one that you guys don't want to play with. So move on. You sit in the row and you sit in the chair in January when I didn't have water for a week because the pipes were frozen. Who kept me informed? Not you, not you, not you, and not you. It was her, keeping everybody informed as to what was going on. We got water because she told us where to get water. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ames?
Next is Shamika Bennett, 3589 Atlanta Street, and there's 2 minutes and 26 seconds on the clock.
On the clock?
Yes.
Overall on the clock?
Overall.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry? Okay. All right.
Next is Beulah Lindsay, 3568 Herschel Road, to discuss general.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
My name is Beulah Lindsay, and I reside at 3568 Herschel Road. I just want to speak from my heart. I don't have a script. I tried to do that, but it just doesn't work for me. In 1865, June 1st, June 19th, in Galveston, Texas, blacks found out that they were free. That was 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed by Abraham Lincoln. Needless to say, they were extremely happy. Can you imagine? That now they no longer had to abide by the laws, by the enslavement that had been put upon them. Fast forward. In 2021, our president signed an order for June 19th to be a federal holiday. As of yesterday, you did not meet because it was a federal holiday. Banks were closed, businesses were closed all over this country. On Saturday, throughout the weekend, on June 19th, cities all over this country celebrated, reflected, acknowledged, screamed for joy in recognition of where we've come from, what our people went through. But the city of College Park did nothing to recognize that. And that hurts me, primarily because in my little home city of Greenwood, South Carolina, needless to say, a conservative state. In my hometown, we celebrated. We had activities. Not so very long ago, I went to Hilton Head, part of my state, and I saw information about they were going to celebrate June 19th. While I was there, I counted the black people that I saw, and I didn't get around to my 10th finger. And here in College Park, where we have 80% or more of the black people here are black, and we did nothing, not even a banner. Something is wrong that? How did you miss it? This, my time is up.
Your time is up.
I'd
Ms.
like to
Lindsay.
let her finish her comments.
This was a
Hold-
time.
Ms. Lindsay, hold on one moment.
I'm
Is there a
sorry.
motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That is
This was
unanimous.
a
Go right ahead.
time that we could have shown the people in this city that they matter. All of us matter. We could have shown them that we cared, that who they are was important to us. And we missed it. Shame on us. And that's how I feel about it. Shame on us. And it is my hope that as we move forward, that we will be able, we will remember, we will include, we won't miss it again. We shouldn't miss it. I shouldn't have to go to East Point. The banner is still up.
That's right.
I shouldn't have to go to Marietta. Marietta, do you know that when I moved here, my best girlfriend lived in Marietta. We were scared to go to the square because we were black. Norcross celebrated it. How did we miss it? I just feel so strongly about it. How did we miss it? And I hope that we don't miss it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. James?
We have no more time. Please advise how you would like to proceed.
Public comment period has expired. Is there a motion to extend?
City Clerk, how many more speakers do we have that want to speak?
One that signed in and several emails.
I'd like to hear from everybody.
Is there a motion?
How many again was that?
One person signed in, one additional, and
You've got some email, I assume.
I'd like to hear from everybody that wants to speak.
I will support that, but I would like to keep it to 3 minutes because it is running late tonight, and we've got still to go back to executive session.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
With that
What
caveat.
is the motion?
With that caveat, Joe, I'll second it.
What is the motion?
The motion is to go ahead and allow the other people to speak, but to hold them, the ones who are on email, to 3 minutes, and the other ones to, well, they're all 3 minutes now. I was thinking 1 minute, but hold them to 3 minutes and not extend it anymore.
Chevelle, those emails, they look like you can read them, do them in 3 minutes, thereabout?
I didn't get a chance to proofread, so I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
So I'll go along with doing that, but I'm just saying, let's hold everything in the future to 3 minutes from now on in this meeting. Okay? I'll second that.
Wait, hold on. Councilman Carn, is that your motion?
Motion,
That is your motion, what Councilman Clay said?
motion, yes.
All right. And Councilman Clay, you have seconded?
Yep.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Ms. Ames?
Next, I have Johnny Williams, 2241 Loud Avenue, to discuss homestead.
What's the address?
2241 Loud Road, I'm sorry.
Good evening.
I'm Johnny Williams. I'm here again about senior homestead exemption. What do you intend to do about that? This is my third time. You need to help the elderly people, and you don't seem to be trying to help us. Other cities have it, so why don't we?
Ma'am, I think the city manager can when he returns to his seat, and Mr. Myers can help you with some of the questions on
I'm gonna tell you
that.
this, I'm gonna continue to come until you do something to help us.
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't make sense. I've been in the city too long paying taxes, and you need to help the seniors in this city.
Yes, ma'am.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
Ms. Ames?
Okay, next I'm gonna move over to my email comments. The first comment is from Natasha Barnett. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And it reads, "Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm writing to express my sheer embarrassment as a College Park resident that we have elected officials who have chosen showmanship over leadership and tantrums over togetherness. The work you do or don't do affects everyone in College Park, not just your respective wards. So when you decide to pick up your toys and go home instead of doing the work the people have elected you to do, I cannot help but compare it to the unfortunate behavior that continues to plague the city of South Fulton today. If antics and sound bites are your thing, you may be better suited for reality TV than public office. You are here to serve, and service is tough. Rise to the occasion or step aside. As a resident, the disregard and seeming lack of awareness for decorum is mind-blowing. Councilman Carn, your insinuation of discrimination citing the inability to share comments is merely another example of you being loud and wrong. Those who watched in chambers or online saw when the motion to approve item 8A was called to vote and Councilman Clay said he seconded the comment, after which the mayor gave each councilman the same opportunity for a comment. Councilman Carn, you are relying on the everyday people to be unaware of Robert's Rules of Order and merely become reactionary to what they think they see. Are you pandering to the uninformed, or are you actually unfamiliar with the standards of facilitation yourself? Councilman Gay, in the past, you have appeared to be the leader in this community, yet you follow him right out the council deals. Ephesians 4:26-32, don't let the passion of your emotions lead to sin. Don't let anger control you or be fuel for revenge, not even for a day. Don't give the slanderous accuser the opportunity to manipulate you. As a woman of color, I'm disappointed to see the continued disrespect shown to our mayor by the two men of color on this council. We expect more from you, and I call you up to be better versions of yourselves, where you not only respect and hold all women in high regard, but where you carry yourselves in a more dignified manner worthy of public office. You are both tarnishing the legacies as well as that of the great city of College Park. Proverbs 12:15, fools follow their own directions and think they are right, but the wise listen to advice. Do better.
Ms. Ames, just make sure you can do everything you can to project, because I think there might be some issues.
Is it the online though?
I think so.
So just
I can move to this mic here if you want.
Oh, okay.
All right, this is for the online crew. Hope you guys can hear me. The next comment is from Randy Godfrey, and it reads, "Esteemed council and mayor, the historical racial angst in College Park, like much of the world, is rooted in fact. As a native of the area, graduate of schools in College Park, I can attest to the struggles that African Americans have experienced in the city. There are current African American citizens who live here in times when they couldn't fully participate in city amenities like the pool or the golf course. Much of the city's politics are grounded in the narrative that the north end of the city, with its historic homes and beautiful thoroughfares, belong to the wealthy white people, while the south end of the town has been left to poor black and brown people. That narrative, while popular during election year theatrics, no longer holds merit. The undeniable truths about the area are: 1, the northern area of the city is 80% black. 2, the people who live here on average make less than those who live in neighboring South Fulton and Clayton County. 3, 18% are living below the poverty level. And 4, 60% of its dwellings are occupied by renters. These are important clarifications as they add context to the recent concerns on the council. In the last several months, several detestable actions have occurred that shape the current issue. These items have generally gone unchallenged by the broader council. It is much like a sporting event where the referee refuses to do his job, which inevitably leads to increased aggression and violent play. As the council is self-regulating, I ask the entirety of the council to act with cowardice to put this immediately in check. While the ethics complaint about the mayor may prove to hold weight, Councilmen Karn and Gay are neatly aware that this process is regulated by the same council that the charges were initiated. It will end with the charges being dismissed. This is not the way to find resolve. I must be made plain that the city council is who hears these charges. Councilman Karn and Gay, who raised the complaints, cannot vote. The mayor, who is charged, cannot vote. This leaves council members Clay and Allen to determine outcomes. Why waste the time and money of the citizens, city, and council with a known failed outcome? Perhaps the goal isn't necessarily to win the ethics charge, but to instead inflict damage to the mayor as we approach this fall's election. I appeal to the council to take prudent, mature, and less dramatic actions to resolve its issues. Organized walkouts, go nowhere ethics complaints, lawsuits, and propagating smear to make a case may help with political victories in the fall, but don't effectively handle today's business of approving budgets and improving the city. In fact, these theatrics set us back, and we're not arguing for or against ideas. The whole of its political theater designed to incite. I also asked the city council that's 3 minutes for that person. My next comment is from Bob Van Orden. Setting my timer. And it reads, my name is Bob Van Orden. I live at 1518 Cambridge Avenue since 2011. 2 council members walking out of council meeting is not acceptable. First, city business needs to get done. Second, this behavior is terrible for the image and reputation of our city. Businesses and investors have many choices in Metro Atlanta and in the South Side as to do potential new residents. Childish and divisive behavior by council members doesn't attract people to choose College Park. I watched the June 5th council meeting live and have rewatched the recording. Myself, I failed to see that the assertions that were made are true in fact. But regardless, council members should never just walk out. Elected representatives cannot pack up their toys and walk away when they are on the losing side of the votes. Council meetings are not the appropriate time or place to attack, air political or personal disagreements, or take significant time posturing to make political points. Politics should occur in other venues, and what is clearly election politicking must not disrupt the business of the city. Divineness and tenuous accusations never help the people. Example, the present 4 wards were not created by nature. They are created by humans, specifically city council. Citizens in each ward do have localized needs and concerns, and these needs to be addressed. However, the council must always work for the entire city. We are not a large city at all. We must and we can work together. The pattern of inciting conflict, competition, or separation between the wards is damaging, unnecessary, and only serves politicians, not the people. College Park has many positive things and at the same time faces many distinct challenges and issues that need thoughtful action. I believe all 4 council members wish to see the city and its citizens progress. The present mayor was elected in 2019, receiving almost 70% of the vote, a landslide by any measure, and received well over 2 times more votes than any seated councilman and about 10 times more than one. Since that time, even with the pandemic, numerous positive gains have been achieved by the council and the mayor, and also by our private citizens. Given so, it is very disappointing to see councilmen take significant time targeting the mayor or any council person and making smearing accusations versus working on the actual issues that the city needs to address. I very much hope the council meetings will go back to a productive track. Thank you. Okay, next I have Tom Coleman, and it reads, Dear Mayor and Council, I was appalled by the actions of our councilmen from Wards 2 and 4 at the June 5th meeting to fabricate accusations of unequal handling of council discussion and worse, to imply racial motivation is unworthy of your positions. Please get back to the important business of our city and cease prioritizing individual political agendas. Sincerely, Tom Coleman. Next I have Grace Phillips, and it reads, Dear city officials, Barack Obama said the Juneteenth holiday is not just a celebration of freedom, but an acknowledgement of the work that still needs to be done. There is so much work to be done in College Park. The plate set before College Park is literally overflowing with opportunity. There are rules to order, rules to decorum. Please lead with these so that we may get the work done. YouTube has given us all transparency. Please, we are watching. Please work together. We need our elected officials to be in the meeting doing the work. If you can't do the work, please do the truly honorable thing and step down so someone else can. Sincerely, Grace Lunsford, Ward 1 resident. Next is Alicia Wood, and it reads, As a local resident of Ward 1, I am writing this letter to express my support for the new Tsunami volleyball training facility to be constructed next to Phillips Park. I believe that this new facility will create remarkable changes in our community. The dedicated staff and volunteers make Tsunami Volleyball a fun, friendly place that provides amazing opportunities for young athletes. Many of our families spend hours in the gym, some with young children in tow, so the location being next to Phillips Park will bring many of our families out of the training facility to enjoy the wonderful outdoor space that Phillips Park has to offer. With the long hours spent at the training facility and tournaments being hosted, you will find this location will bring an added revenue stream to our local hotels and restaurants. This is an exciting opportunity for our community, and I look forward to seeing it come to fruition. Sincerely, Alicia Wood. My next comment is from Faith McCullers, and it reads, My name is Faith McCullers, and I have lived at 2615 Greenspring Road, College Park since 2008. My comments echo the sentiment that Mayor Broom is partially against Councilmember Karn and Councilmember Gay in her deliberations over the city meetings. An ethics complaint filed and provided strict proof that this occurs. Mayor Broom has interfered with many of the initiatives for Ward 4. Let us look back. The mayor initially was against the funding for the splash pad and wanted the money to demolish Catherine Mitchell's building. The mayor derailed the Ward 4 festival during COVID, even though tickets were sold and had to be refunded. Her excuse was it could cause too much traffic. She allowed the PGA Golf Tour visitors to park in the same area. The hundreds of homesteaders that are black women surviving on Social Security and maybe a small pension would have benefited under the governor's signed tax bill, age 65, no income requirement. Cost the city approximately $1.8 million. However, Mayor Broom did not support the city's spending of $900,000 to help her friends with finding the Flint a conservation grant. It is my belief Mayor Broom cared more about her friend's grant that the hardworking women of our city saving their houses from not being able to pay the tax bill. Mayor Broom's white husband's brother is a real estate lawyer who has brought delinquent tax cities. In any regard, celebrates generations of LGBTQI+ people who have fought bravely to live openly and authentically. In my leadership capacity, I promise to protect these members of our community. My family, moreover, the absence of respect can impede progress and hinder the effective functioning of the council. Healthy debates and diverse opinions are essential for generating innovative ideas and crafting well-informed policies. However, when respect is lacking, it becomes difficult to put personal feelings aside that hurts our city. You all serve at the pleasure of the citizens of College Park. We have a major development we are trying to get off the ground called 6 West. Brought the corner to begin to pool water, causing the flood-like conditions once again. Secondly, I am again asking that we strengthen the lighting on the Brady Trail. It's entirely too dark after the sun goes down, and with summer coming, many of our visitors housed in the hotels who enjoy walking at night can't utilize the trail for fear of safety. And lastly, Mayor Broom, the allegations surrounding your family, particularly your brother and sister-in-law's alleged misconduct and nepotism with the buying and selling of College Park property, the alleged affiliation with your brother-in-law's business partnership with Sam Dixon, a known white nationalist and Ku Klux Klan attorney, are very damaging and put your entire legacy in question. Yes, I understand that seems to be an insult on your character, your policies, and even your reputation, but the citizens, the stakeholders, the neighbors of College Park deserve your response to what has been presented by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Hopefully, you will be able to address this tonight during your final mayor report before adjournment. I am not the voice of the people. I am the people, and the game of it's just politics has hit hard, and I will not stand for this kind of leadership and any of our elected officials. We need for College Park to rise up and above this muck and mire and move forward. This is more than pick yourself up and dust yourself off. This is a take a shower and change your clothes and present yourself in a better light. Thank you for your time and careful consideration. Demetrius Taylor. I have no other comments.
Thank you, Ms. Ames.
You're welcome.
We will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second with discussion. There was something I saw here.
Okay, Councilman Carr.
Wait a minute, I gotta find it again. What did I wanna look at? Well, we pretty much discussed the T-Splosh, so I think I'm good. This is A through J, right? That's everything.
These are all the things that we discussed in the workshop session.
Yeah, they went to numbers here, Joe, instead of letters, but those are the same ones that were on the.
All right, I think I'm good. Yeah, I'm
Councilman
okay.
Clay, anything?
Pardon?
Any discussion?
I have none.
Okay. Councilman Allen?
No comment.
Councilman Gay?
No comment.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Item 6A is discussion of a gun buyback program. Councilman Carn, this item is yours.
This is an issue, I guess it's no surprise to anyone. The magnitude of gun violence has pretty much been unprecedented throughout all of Metro Atlanta, and for that matter, throughout the nation. As a city, we are making progress, but all cities are plagued with some of these issues. Now, some of these are from public policy on the state level, national level, so on and so forth. But we have to fight these things on a local level. So the good news is that we do have a strong black woman in leadership at the police department. Our city chief, she has hit the ground running, and we've supported all of her efforts. I think she's doing a great job. We talked about putting together a gun buyback event. As some of you all may know, I spearheaded the last gun buyback event about over 12 years ago, I think, at this point. I think it was a successful event. I think it's high time for a new one. You know, crime in our city is something that we have to be proactive about, and I think this is an obvious no-brainer. Chief Rogers, if you could come down and just touch on some things. When she was on hiatus in South Fulton, she really stepped up her chops, I guess you could say, being the deputy chief there, which led her back to College Park. But I understand she also put together some gun buyback events there that were successful, and she made some suggestions for some tweaks that would make it a little more efficient for us as opposed to the last time. So, Chief, if you want to touch on that, and
yes, the gun back, it aims at just curbing gun violence. As Councilman Carn has spoken, gun violence is on the rise, not only here in College Park, but the metro area. The ultimate goal is just to get the guns off the street and make the neighborhoods feel safe. If this was to move forward, so we won't have everybody coming from all over the metro area, it would be designated to those individuals living in zip code 30337 and 30349. As far as the gun back goes, no questions asked. If you bring a gun, a short gun, how we did it in my previous employment, a handgun, $75 gift card, a long gun, $100 gift card. After the event is over, the guns are checked to ensure that they're not stolen or have been involved in a crime before they are disassembled and sent to the GBI to be destroyed.
All right. So questions, Councilman Clay?
Yeah, I remember the gun buyback program we had before, and I thought it was a good idea.
And if I could say one more other thing, with the gun back event, to take it a step further, for those residents who don't want to turn in a gun, we will have a second portion of that, of giving away our partner with Project Safe Light, and they sent the department, free of charge, 150 gun locks. So we would tie that event in with the gun backpack giveaway.
That's a good idea too. The only problem I had with the last gun buyback was that we had people coming from all over, and I don't think you've gone far enough to address it. If we just go by the zip code, it includes people outside the city limits of College Park. And I think we need to put a cap on it as to how much we'll spend. And personally, I want to get as much of that money removing guns from the residents of College Park that you have to deal with as police.
We can do that like we did with the free steering wheel gun lock giveaway. They will have to be verified residents of College Park.
Well, the only way to verify it is not by zip code, but by whether they have a power bill or not.
But that's something that we can definitely look
at. And if you can, we use the power bill, I mean, the utility bill, I should say. We use that for other things, so if we can restrict it to that, we can make our money go further and eliminate more guns that you and your staff have to deal with. So that would be my recommendation. And I would, if I vote for this, I would like to see the motion changed to restrict it to that.
Well,
hold on one second, Councilman Clay.
That's all I had.
Okay, all right, Councilman Carr.
Yeah. So here's what I'm suggesting, and I want to try to follow the chief's lead on this. When we talked about the two zip codes, 30337 is College Park. 30349 is parts of College Park, and it touches on some of the other cities. Now, folks, you know, a gun is going to travel in and out of city lines in the vicinity. So some of the same guns and shootings that we may end up with, those guns may have traveled to East Point, or they may have gone down Old National a little bit into South Fulton. So I want to cover a reasonable perimeter of our area, because the guns don't respect the border. Now, we don't want half of Georgia coming in. I know the last time we had an event, we had over 600 people show up. But again, I think we needed to target things a little more towards College Park. So I agree with you in that sense, where we want to take more of a targeted approach, no pun intended, as opposed to a scatter approach. You know, I say this is an important issue for any city, but gun violence is hitting cities of color the hardest. And we talk about supporting our city and what we are. As an African-American man arguing for and against ideas, sometimes it's difficult for us up here. Sometimes there are lots of things that we would like to do and we want to do. This is something that I don't mind taken the charge on. I led the effort the last time. I think it's something that would truly possibly save lives. We want to make sure that we show that we're a welcoming city, a proactive city, the whole nine. But I'd like to spread it a little bit within our perimeters in terms of the travel of these weapons. Not to mention Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, which I understand is the #1 airport for confiscated guns in the United States of America. So I think we're more than obligated. I'm asking for the same amount of funds that we used before, around $20,000. And
How much?
I'm sorry. Okay. So that's what I'm asking for. And I would like, between the city manager and the chief, if we could collapse in as close to College Park as we can. But if there's someone out there with a gun in East Point that wants to bring it in here, I say bring it on in here, because I think ultimately that's going to help within proximity to College Park. And there's some issues that go beyond city limit lines. So I'd like to do it, and I'd like if you all can maybe sit down and figure out a tight enough perimeter that makes sense, that's reasonable, and using your judgment. I think you know the weapons we're looking for that are in our communities, most immediate to us, and see if there's some kind of happy medium we can come up with where we know we're tightening the circle in terms of where we're targeting. So, yeah.
Councilman Allen?
I think it's a great idea. Anything that you can do to try to get guns off the street, even if you get one, I think it's worth it. So I think we need to do that. I'd be willing to give some of my discretionary money. So I think if you need some, let me know. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Gay?
Do you need a motion for that? I make a motion that we approve the gun buyback at $20,000.
Is there a second?
I will second it with bringing in council members Clay's conceptually. If we could modify that where the chief and the city manager come up with a reasonable catchment area. College Park, Virginia Avenue, you go a few blocks down, you're in Hateville. If we can catch some of that, great. If you go another block, you're in East Point, so on and so forth. You go down Old National, a couple of blocks, you're in South Fulton. If we can catch some of that, I think all the better. I think if we could figure out a way where you all could come up with something that's within reason, that keeps us from getting too far in the outskirts of where we're targeting.
I'll research that and get further clarification, and the city manager will have my suggestion in the morning.
And I definitely understand your reasoning behind it, but if they could figure out a way to collapse this to where it's, I think, if we go down Old National, we go down into Fayetteville, but,
Where the city borders other
far
cities.
enough where the crime is, where the issues are, and, all of our cities deal with these issues. At the end of the day, it's just a line that we drew, but crime doesn't respect that line necessarily, so.
So if the
Okay, so
motion- if
hold
the
on one
motion-
moment. Councilman Gay, what is your motion?
Yeah.
Again,
Yes, sir.
clerk, did you hear that motion? Could you read it?
It was to support the buyback program with $20,000.
And Councilman Carn, have you seconded that motion?
I second it with the caveat that we come up with a perimeter within reason, within close proximity within the College Park borders, where the chief and city manager figure out an area within reason and put some limits on things within reason.
My only, with that is, if we go outside of the city, those individuals can be anywhere within Hateville or East Point. And if I'm mandating that College Park bring a power bill, what are we gonna do for the neighboring cities?
In my opinion, I just think, Chief, if we have this event,
Just trying to get some clarification in the way you want me to go with it.
I think you have enough judgment and experience to gauge what we're looking for, and I guess in a sense, if someone's a little too far outside of the boundaries for within reason, I think you can judge that by being an officer for many, many years, and between you and the city manager, maybe you come
most
up with
definitely. I was just trying to see which
something,
direction you want me to go with.
Well, I think people that bring in the power bill, that's obvious, yes.
Yes.
But I would like maybe the city manager and chief use some discretion with anything outside of that. But the primary be College Park residents with the bill or identification. But if you're down over national a little bit, if it were me, I would say I think I'd take that weapon if we can get it off the street too.
Okay, so Councilman Gay's motion is to do a gun buyback program and allocate $20,000 to it. Is there a second for that motion? Because I've not heard you say, Councilman Gay, that you're amending the motion. So is there a second for that motion?
Second with those amendments.
Let me make a suggestion. That staff take this, come back with recommendations, and we address this at the next meeting. And so that way, the concerns that we've heard today are ones that we can actually fully address instead of, I mean, the amendment is a little bit nebulous, and so having the opportunity for staff to take a look at it and establish some parameters that would make sense not only for legal purposes, because I'm a little concerned about the idea that we might be paying people in other cities for guns. If we can examine this a little bit more on the staff level, I think there's general consensus that we want to make it happen, but it may need to be fine-tuned on the staff level.
Well, Mayor, if I can say something. I've heard this before up here. I've heard this when we voted to support depositing some of our city funds in an African-American bank when the vote was unanimous. I heard from one person up here before to slow it down. The next year, we voted again to deposit 25% of our funds in an African-American bank. And it was the same message. Let's slow things down. The Ward 4 community event a few years back. Let's slow that down a little bit. Folks, the reason I'm bringing this up today is because summer is here. And we're already starting late. Now, it's an absolute fact that crime spikes during the summertime. We're here. We got the ability to do this now. We need to do something now, tonight, today. Again, it's been hard up here sometimes to get some initiatives, in particularly in this city when it comes to our African-American community. But we want to make progress, and my job is to move forward and make progress. We need to do this today. However we do it, whatever we come to, let's come to it. If we can figure out something that works to get some of these guns off the street, I'm all for doing it. So let's figure it out tonight, and I don't think we need to bring this back or discuss this in committee, because I think everybody in this room wants to get it done. The question is how soon we want to get it done. And I don't want one day to pass. I want to get this done tonight.
Mayor, may I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
I think we all agree that we want to do this. I appreciate that Councilman Carn would like to do it soon. And I don't think we're deliberately, personally, I don't think we're deliberately trying to slow anything down. I just don't know how staff is going to enforce something that isn't specific. I don't agree with the total zip code, but the other side of the coin is saying that they have to be within a certain distance of College Park. I don't know how in God's name you guys would enforce that in such a way. Somebody comes up to turn their gun in and, well, where do you live, and figuring out how many blocks away it is. I think technically it's hard. The one thing that I certainly could agree with, I want to do a gun buyback program. I agree with Joe. But if we just said that they lived in College Park, yes, guns can cross borders, but guns from College Park can go elsewhere as well. And there's nothing to say that somebody in a block or two outside of College Park couldn't collect a bunch of guns from anywhere and bring them in and say, hey, here I am. I live a block off. I live on the other side of Vesta, for example. I would love to include guns on the other side of Vesta. I know a couple of my constituents out there that would drink to that as well. But the point is, it is hard to enforce. So where I'm coming from is the one common denominator that we want to buy back guns, and if we use the utility bill, that is something that is easy to do, it's enforceable, it will get, I think we're going to spend that $20,000 very quickly, and I think it will get, I wouldn't want somebody who lives in the city to be excluded because we expanded it out a couple blocks. That's my rationale. So I want to just, Joe, I just want to vote for something that's concrete, that we can get done, that staff doesn't have to spend a whole lot of time, because it's still going to get slowed down by staff trying to come up with a mechanism to do it. And I don't know how you're going to handle it. Who's ever collecting the guns, I don't know how they're going to handle it. Well, I'm only 3.5 blocks off. Well, why can't I turn my gun in, kind of thing. So as much as I'd like to see it done for the benefit of the guys that I know on Vesta that are sitting in the audience, I just think if we want to get it done quickly, we want to do it precisely, it's easy to do, just decide on a utility bill and be done with it.
How about?
Hold on. Go ahead, Councilman Carr.
How about within a 1 mile radius of the city center? How about that? That's simple.
How does she know that?
Well, anyone can draw a 1 mile radius on a map. That's pretty simple.
How do you know the addresses within 1 mile?
Well,
how do you decide that when somebody walks up with their gun and they live on Slobovia Street and you say, oh God, where is Slobovia Street?
Our police department knows just about every block of College Park and East Point in these areas because these issues go, I think most of our officers know the area enough to read on what we're trying to do. I'd just like to capture, if we can capture some that go in and out of the city regularly along some of the corridors. That's all I'm looking for. And if we absolutely can't get that, and we can only get in a consensus on the power bills, so be it. But I'd like to get as many guns as possible out of our neighborhoods and communities, and that just doesn't include where the city limit sign stops at. But
Councilman Allen?
I have this suggestion.
I'm sorry, Councilman Carr, you finished? Okay, go ahead.
I have a suggestion. Why don't we do it using the power bill, do it right away so we can get some guns off the street, take a look at the outcome, and maybe we can expand it, and maybe we have another one. It's so good. Maybe we have another one later this year, but we can do it during the summer. We can do it right now and get the guns off the street. That would be mine. Do it, make it clean, see what the outcome is, see if you're getting people that come in from nearby, and then we can adjust if we need to. I mean, at a later date for the second one, if we decide to have one. That's my suggestion.
Councilman Gay?
No comment, motion stands.
Okay, so the motion is to have a gun buyback and use $20,000. I haven't gotten a second on that motion, that clean motion.
Second,
Okay.
with the addition of the power bill requirement.
Councilman Gay, do you accept the addition of the power bill
accept
requirement?
the power
Okay.
bill.
So the motion is for a gun buyback program for the total of $20,000 with.
Mayor, one other caveat.
Hold on 1 second, Councilman Carr. With the addition that folks have to show a power bill. That's your motion, Councilman Gay?
Sure, but I mean, when you go get a driver's license, there's several other forms of ID. I don't know if you could get a power bill if you got a gun. I wouldn't come with a power bill and a pistol. So maybe you come up with some alternative forms of ID.
I think if you have a power bill or a driver's license that has City of College Park, does that sound reasonable or?
I got it.
The only thing I wanted to add is I'd like us to do this in July. I don't want to wait. If we can do it, the sooner the better to get it going. That was my addition.
Councilman Gay, are you amenable to?
July.
So the motion is a gun buyback program in July using $20,000 where folks have to show their power bill. Correct,
Or
Councilman
ID,
Gay?
or driver's
Or ID,
license.
or
driver's
or
license.
government issued ID.
Yeah, College Park address.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
And if I could make a suggestion,
No.
it would be
Wait,
gift
hold on,
card.
hold on, Chief. That's, or a government issued ID with a College Park address. Is there a second? You made the motion.
I second it.
Okay.
I'd like to, if the chief had something. but-
Wait, hold on 1 second. So you've seconded the motion. It's my understanding that we still have addresses that may not be getting the city of South Fulton. So we still might have folks with government-issued IDs with College Park addresses that do not live within the city limits of College Park. So that is something that and Mr. Denmark, I want to ask you about the legality of paying folks who don't live in this city for a gun buyback.
Mayor, that's less my concern. I understand why you would have a concern about that, but I think that it's just as viable as paying someone who lives within the corporate limits of the city. The issue, though, is as it relates to a clean, bright line standard that the staff can apply. I think the power bill does that. I also think that the driver's license or government issued ID does that as well. Yes, you may have a driver's license that says College Park and a person lives fully in the city of South Fulton, but it is still a bright line objective measure because the driver's license says College Park, and so it's close, and that is an objective measure that is easily enforced by the staff, equally easy as the power bill.
All right, Councilman Clay? Anything?
Pardon?
Anything?
Any comment?
Yes, sir.
If we use the driver's license and it says, I think that the staff, you guys can look at the address on a driver's license and tell, like Councilman Karn was saying, you know the streets in College Park.
Yes, sir.
So whoever's handling it, as long as there's somebody who's knowledgeable, they can look at the address and say, number such and such on such and such street, that is or isn't in College Park.
We did the same thing with the steering wheel lock.
That ought to be easy, shouldn't it?
We had no issues.
You can do that, right?
Yes, sir.
So I can support that.
All right.
All right, Councilman Carr?
All right.
Councilman Allen?
I'm good.
Councilman Gay?
Fine.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 6B is a motion to approve the fiscal year 23-24 proposed budget.
Motion.
Second.
Hold on. I had double motions there. All right. I heard Councilman Karn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Clay.
Second with comment.
Councilman Clay, I acknowledge his second, and we'll start with Councilman Clay and move across. Go ahead, Councilman Clay.
I just hope that we will look at the items that didn't make the budget. I personally think we are going to be doing better than the picture that staff has painted because I think they're being conservative, and I have no problem with being conservative. But I think we need to look after the first quarter of revenue and expenses and then relook at the budget. And I'm not making that any kind of a proviso. I'm just, of my motion, I'm just saying, I think we intend to do that, city manager, and I think that makes sense. So that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Karn?
Yeah, city manager, so we keep our eye on it. End of September, we take another look and see what's available. So, yeah.
Councilman Allen?
No, I think we're all saying the same thing. City manager, take a look, and I'm fine with that.
Councilman Gay?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment about the budget in my discussion. So we just approved a $140 million budget, and I did not see one person that came here tonight to discuss the budget, to understand the budget, to know if you're included in the budget. So I'll be saying a lot more, but I find it mighty interesting that there is so much conversation about how we derailed the budget. It's being passed, you know, the next week. But again, I didn't see not one resident for the whole budget session, and it went almost 2 months.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Item 6C is a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-10, calling for a local referendum to allow city residents to vote on a new homestead exemption from ad valorem taxes levied by the city of College Park. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman Gay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you,
Discussion.
Councilman Carn. I'm sorry. That was Councilman Clay.
It's Councilman Clay.
Second with discussion.
All righty. We'll start with Councilman Clay and move it down.
No, I think we're finally able to do what we set out to do. And I think we took the loopholes out of the budget that would, out of the referendum item, that would have allowed people who didn't really need the tax exemption to not get the tax exemption. And I think we've also arranged to, since we went through this 2 iterations of this now, we've adjusted with something else on the agenda for some of the people that would have gotten the exemption this year to still be compensated, or to be credited, I should say, for it, if we do that right. So I'm totally good with this.
Councilman Carn?
Well, I think this is long overdue. I think we could have done more for residents, but I'm glad we've got this at least. It's a good start, and let's get it right this time.
Councilman Allen?
No, I'm good with it. I think we can always make adjustments, and always will make adjustments as we go along, so I'm fine with this.
Councilman Gay?
Yes, for the record, this consideration is something that I sponsor, Councilmember Rodriguez, because College Park is in fact female head of household women at or below poverty. So I sponsored that action, and it took 2 years to get here tonight. 2 years. And the governor signed a bill that if you're 65 or older, you're exempt from property tax. And it was signed in, the legislative council may have drafted, you attorneys understand that, the legislative council may have drafted the wrong bill, but yet and still it was signed. It would have cost our budget approximately $1.8 million. That's if assuming all the homesteaders took the exemption, Chief. And so it got put back to where that's a mean test. Now, what do I mean by mean test? Mean test mean that the bill that they're passing tonight, you go by your Social Security. So in my case, I get about $700 in Social Security. That's what I get, because I work for myself all my life. So if a teacher get a little small pension and Social Security, she wouldn't be eligible. No, sir. No, ma'am. That teacher wouldn't be eligible, because this bill is based on Social Security. Not only is that going to be a nightmare to enforce, but for those who are listening intently, the governor signed bill 65 or older would have cost us approximately $1.8 million if all homesteaders had taken it. That next week, we passed the bill for $900,000 on Ms. Marsha Knox to find the Flint. That's the next week. And
But-
so, I don't know that if a few homeowners would have abused this bill, that's pale in comparison to how many female head or households who just got a little bit of money over their Social Security who won't be eligible, it would have benefited.
Thank you, sir. I think it's important to note the intention of this council when they adopted this resolution initially. And it was to make sure that the folks who were on the edge, our legacy residents, those who might be over 65 with limited incomes, and those who are disabled with limited incomes, had the opportunity to ensure that they could stay here, that those property taxes, those city property taxes, would not be so onerous that they would have to leave. And that was the intent of this body. What we got back from the state the first time, last year, was a bill that included everyone above 65. And one of the blessings of this position is having the opportunity to speak with folks across the state. And in Cherokee County, they have a similar provision. It has led to, and I think Councilman Clay, you discussed some of your concerns with this, with a number of folks who would just move there for a tax exemption, who could afford to pay taxes, but took advantage of the opportunity not to. And so that bill last year also left off disabled residents. It wasn't the intent of this council. And so now we have a bill signed by the governor that was the initial intent of this council. And one of the challenges that we might face if we become a haven for folks who are north of 65 and don't want to pay property taxes is that increases the burden on everyone else. And so we have to, from a policy perspective, balance things. We don't always get it right. It's not always perfect. But I do think this is what the council intended from the get-go. And we will go around one more time. Councilman Clay, any comment?
Oh, do I have any more comments? No, I think you said some of the things that I had said before, and that was my concern. There were a lot of downsides, and we spent a lot of time. One of our city attorneys and I spent a lot of time talking about loopholes and various things, and that got taken care of. And if I'm not mistaken, the way this is worded, it talks about the eligibility of a citizen. It talks about the amount of money based on what a citizen would get if they were at that age, not what this particular citizen is entitled to. The amount of money that you get in Social Security is dependent on how much you have paid in. We're not limiting it to what you have paid in. We are limiting it to what the government says the maximum value, essentially, of somebody who is 65. So your school teacher who has not earned anything in Social Security, hasn't put anything into Social Security, for example, still is exempt from an income that would be equivalent to somebody in Social Security. Councilman Gay, that was my intent. And I think that's the way it's worded, and I think that's the way we're going to interpret it. So it isn't that the Social Security reference was just used as a simple way to have an adjustable amount that would go up with inflation, whatever the government said the limits were. And it's the age when you get full retirement. It's not just 65. The government may move the age to 68 or 70 or whatever. I don't even know what it is anymore. I've been on Social Security for a while. But the point is, it is just used, the reference to Social Security is just to give us a simple standard that staff can administer.
Councilman Carn?
I'm good.
Councilman Allen?
I'm good. I think we've talked about it enough.
Councilman Gay?
Yes. This city, unlike Fulton County, sells your property tax. We literally come into this chambers and we sell your property tax. Other words, if you delinquent on your property tax within that same delinquent year, we sell your property tax. We don't send it to Invesco. Maddie Dorsey died of breast cancer. During her illness, her alcoholic brother failed to pay her property tax. It was $363. Maddie house was paid for. In my ward, Maddie house is worth about $450,000. But a man came out here and bought her property tax for approximately $300,000 or $200,000. So after Maddie passed, the family wanted to get the house in probate, but they had to pay this tax lien that we sold. And I guess you saying, so what is he saying? What does that got to do with what they just said? Again, I sponsored the action because Shirley Robinson came to me and said, Councilman Gay, would you sponsor an action that if I am exempt from Fulton County property tax, I simply don't pay College Park tax? That's all I asked. Again, Shirley Robinson came and said, Councilman Gay, would you sponsor a bill that says, if I'm exempt from Fulton County property tax, I simply don't want to pay city property. That's all I asked. This thing went for 2 years to tonight. And if you don't own a house, you probably don't feel this if you're a renter. But if you have built equity in your home and you've lived here for 30 years, you feel this. So all I'm simply saying is what went from a simple ask went 2 years with a whole lot of fancy, articulate discussion. At the end of the day, it only cost us $1.8 million. If every homesteader, 3,240 homesteaders, paid this city less than 10% of our budget, if every last one of them had taken it, half of them were cheaters, we still would not have exceeded $1.8 million. So what's the point? Why convolute it for 2 years and it's still going to eliminate a good amount of people, black, white, alike. It ain't racist, it's quality of life. I'm advocating for you. I'm good. My family's good. We're advocating for y'all. And that's what I want to say.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. We will move on to item 6D, motion to adopt an ordinance and approval of an intergovernmental agreement regarding the provision of 2023 election services with the Clayton County Board of Elections and Registration. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Is there a second?
Clay, second.
Gentlemen, if you just hold, just let me ask for it, and then I will acknowledge you. Thank you. All right, Councilman Allen on the second. Any discussion, Councilman Clay?
Say that again.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? No, I'm enthusiastic.
Councilman Carn?
I'm good.
Councilman Allen?
No, I think this is mainly my ward and a couple in Ward 2, but I'm good.
Councilman Gay?
No comment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. The next is a motion to approve a date and a time for the renaming ceremony for Lottie Miller Boulevard. Mr. Hawthorne? Or who's taking up this discussion?
Phil Alexander and Jamesia.
Oh, okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yes, so we wanted to bring before Council to have a renaming ceremony to rename it the Lottie Miller Boulevard on September the 2nd, 2023 at 10 a.m. It is going to kick off the annual Coming Home reunion event that the members of the community organize.
Yeah, we just wanted to check in on the date, because we would have then the grand ribbon cutting wouldn't be until, probably January when the whole road is complete. So we're just confirming that the renaming celebration happens at the September 2nd date.
All right, any discussion, Councilman Clay?
I think the timing is incredible. I'm all in favor.
Councilman Carn?
Obviously, I think this is something that's long overdue to recognize some of our African-American legacy residents in this way. I think this is a great thing. So we picked September 2nd just out of a hat, or was it a specific reason?
This was a proposal Councilman Gay brought to staff's attention to execute. So
I
we wanted to
understand
check.
that,
Yeah.
but the
So was
date, what I'm saying is the date, the selection of the date.
I would defer to Councilman Gay.
Okay, you selected the date.
It's coming home reunion more.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I was asking, the significance of the date, which is perfect. I also would suggest that you touch base with Ms. Abdullah, with the Historical Citizens Advisory. They presented at BIDA, perhaps you remember. We want to make sure they're there. We want to, they may want to say a word or two. And any of the legacy residents, I think it'd be a good touch to make sure they know we're doing this, because this is a bit of history here. So let's make that happen. So, yeah, I'm all 100% on board.
Councilman Allen?
I'm good, and I think the date is perfect, so make sure that everybody knows it'll be great. Good.
Councilman Gay?
Well, I appreciate y'all presenting. I do want to thank late Jack Longino for initially supporting it when we first brought it out, and it carried on to this council. So thank y'all for presenting it, and I look to have a good event.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
I believe that was unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 6F is a motion to renew the 3-year Community Development Block Grant Cooperative Agreement between the City of College Park and Fulton County Government. Good evening, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening, everybody.
Is there a motion on this one?
Motion.
Thank you, Councilman
Second.
Carn. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. Discussion, Councilman Clay?
Obviously, we want to accept the grant. No comment.
Councilman Carn?
All right, let's get it in here as soon as possible.
Councilman Allen?
I'm good, thank you.
Councilman Gay?
I want to comment that when we built the splash pad, when I first presented the splash pad, we wanted to use community development block grant money, right? And that money was earmarked because cities hadn't used it. So it wasn't the CDBG grant that she's presenting per se, because that's not a lot of money, actually. So we were told that we need 10%. So ever since I've been up here, we've been having to do a 10% match, right? So we were faced with a challenge of not getting a splash pad. This is for all those people who come down and have so much to say, now it's our time. To the record. So we needed 10%, and the splash pad was $540,000. What in God's name do you get 10%? I couldn't get the votes unless there were 10%. So what do? We go make lemon out of lemonades. We go to the county. We advocate that we could do in kind the street lights from our amazing power department, recreational supplies, and they bought it. So from this point on, we never have to match 20%. So this point further, if we create an in-kind, we no longer have to take money out of our coffers to match the community development block grant. If you're gonna tell stories, my son in Columbia, by way of Morehouse, who's now in San Francisco, He told me, Dad, I don't have a problem with anything you say as long as you say the facts. Facts is what matter. That's what's going to come from this seat going forward, facts. And then you take those facts and you do what you want to do with them. And you'll get the government you deserve.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 6G is a motion to approve a four-way stop sign at the intersection of the Convention Center Concourse. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Discussion, Councilman Clay?
No, it sounds like the right thing to do. I'm good. I got the location of it, and it was a little unclear because there was no cross street indicated. And the chief informed me of the location, and I'm a happy camper. So I'm okay.
Councilman Carn?
All right, let's get it up.
Councilman Allen?
No questions?
Councilman Gay?
No questions.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 6H is a motion to authorize the ATN investigation and implementation study. Who's here to discuss this one?
Jackson Myers and Councilman Clay.
No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, my name's Jackson Myers. We were looking at doing this automatic transit network here at College Park, and we were talking about we wanted to have staff look at doing this, what do you call it,
Feasibility.
feasibility study. You're here to help, right? Feasibility study for out at, and we picked one of the places as the at the GICC, in front of the GICC, as far for the automatic transit network.
And introduce
There
Crystal.
was a previous mayor and council meeting where it was approved to utilize the property of the GICC to pilot this ATN system in conjunction with the feasibility study that MARTA will be leading. And so there was a memorandum of agreement that was put together between ACIDS, GDOT, MARTA, Fulton and Clayton counties, and the city of College Park to make sure that we're all working together collectively to bring forth this pilot as well as complete this feasibility study.
Could you state your name for the record?
I'm sorry, I'm Crystal Harris, Program Director of the ATL Airport Community Improvement Districts.
Thank you. Questions, Councilman Glay?
No, I have no questions. I'm very familiar with this. This will enable us to demonstrate the feasibility. And if we agree, we still have to figure out whether the location is appropriate. We think we have a location. We've talked about it, but we still need to look into it. We don't even know who's going to respond to the RFP that is going to be going out. And depending on what their needs are, it could determine whether it's feasible or not feasible. But we picked the GICC, at least I picked it. We didn't pick it yet, but we felt that it was feasible because we could draw a lot of people who use the SkyTrain. It could be a practical use to connect the SkyTrain with the arena. So somebody wouldn't have to, if they wanted to go to a Dreams game, let's say, they could come in on MARTA, they could come on MARTA to the airport, they could take the free SkyTrain over, and then they could get off the SkyTrain at the convention center and go across and get back on the PRT, which is pod cars, probably, 6-passenger pod cars, and travel over to the arena. So it would be a good practical test. If this were to work, it could be expanded. It could be a last mile kind of method of transportation. And it will bring a lot of visitors to the convention center area, and it will get a lot of good exposure. And the route that possibly will be taken would be along the front of the parking lot, crossing the parking lot, and then coming up between the arena and the other parking lot, probably. So you'd end up right at the entrance to the arena. It's a relatively short trip, but it would be very visible to people on Camp Creek, so it would be a good selling point for what we are doing modernistically to improve transportation in the metro Atlanta area, particularly in the airport area. That's why the CIDs are heavily involved in it and in favor of it. And I've been working with it quite some time. I've gone on 2 trips, field trips. Councilman Karn has gone on a field trip. And it is, it's just a good thing to do for the city, just putting us more on the map, just like the pedestrian bridge is going to put us more on the map. So we don't know. We're not committing to build it per se. We're committing to work together to see if this is a workable area to do the pilot, and given what comes back on the RFP. Correct me if I'm wrong, Crystal.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's all I have.
Councilman Carr?
Well, I think he said pretty much enough. Really excited. This is a game changer for this city. This is what we call showcase technology. You know, look at the future of transportation, so on and so forth. Again, thank you, MARTA, CIDs, Fulton County. Having a good partnership with the county is important. They could put this anywhere in the county, and we're hoping they're going to put it here in College Park. And we want all of the pilot initiatives here, as many as we can get. We're open for business and open to the new ideas and the new ways of thinking. So it's exciting. I can't wait to see that going along Camp Creek Parkway as visitors come by. So we're really excited, and we want to put forth whatever we can to make it a winner for the whole region. So, yeah.
Councilman Allen?
Okay. I just have a couple of concerns. I'm concerned about where it's going to go, and I guess this is what the project's going to tell us, where it's going to go, and if it's going to block out the view of the arena and the GICC from Camp Creek, how much space it's going to take with parking. Is it going to be affected by the bridge that we're the walking trail across? Those are questions that I have, and I'll have later on. But that's all I had. I just don't know right now.
No, those are all fair questions, Councilman. Actually, as Councilman Clay has said, we're working together to make sure that is the actual location that we should place this pilot ATN system. However, once the RFP comes in, that's when collectively we all sit down to really dig into the nuts and bolts to make sense of where the system should go, what the alignment should be, and again, if the GICC location is the best fit location, which is why it is being considered for this pilot.
Okay. Have all the other cities bought into it?
Tonight, Clayton County had it on their agenda. I've got to check in with Gerald to see if it passed. GDOT, we spoke with them this morning. Their attorneys are reviewing it. MARTA has their attorneys reviewing it, so everyone has it. And Fulton County meets tomorrow. I'll be at that meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
How much is the study?
The study is $10 million, and MARTA has committed. No, sorry, the study is $3 million, and MARTA has committed to using their on-call planning contract to do that.
So we're just voting to do it?
To be a part of this technical review committee, yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. With my colleagues, I think it's a great technological advancement for College Park.
I'm deeply concerned about losing spaces at the GICC. That's how we make our money.
Understood.
And I think this technology is, I just want to ensure that it doesn't disrupt the operations that we already have there. And also that it's essentially not a ride to nowhere. I think given our transportation issues in the South Fulton region, and especially around the airport, I can think of better ways to spend the money. I understand my colleagues differ with me in that, and that is how things go. But all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm in favor right now.
Did we actually make a motion?
Thank you so much, Ms. Ames. I appreciate it. Thank you for keeping me in line.
I move to approve.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Gentlemen, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. That is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Ames. So 6I is motion to approve a negotiation of an intergovernmental agreement with Fulton County for the donation of .86 acres of Business and Industrial Development Authority owned land at the corner of Princeton Avenue and Jefferson Street for the purpose of developing a tiny home community. Good evening, Ms. Rambeau.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Just as a brief recap, the city is preparing to go into partnership with Fulton County for the purpose of building a tiny homes community within the city of College Park. The city has been asked to donate .5 acres towards the project. The Microlife Institute will be the developers, and then the county will use the remaining $700,000 of American Rescue funds to subsidize the mortgages for the homeowners. As I said, we've been asked to donate .5 acres. We have identified 2 0.4-acre lots at the corner of Jefferson and Princeton. And what we'd like to do is combine these 2 lots and donate the .8 acres as opposed to the .5 acres. We just think that the .8 acres will allow this to be a better project overall. We'll be able to build a few more houses. We'll be able to have all the parking on site, and we'd have a little more flexibility in terms of layout. With that, tonight we're asking council to vote to allow staff to enter into negotiations for an intergovernmental agreement with Fulton County for the donation of the .86 acres at the corner of Jefferson and Princeton for the purpose of developing the tiny home community.
Thank you, Ms. Rambeau. Councilman Clay.
Yeah, I know we've doubled the amount of acreage that we were originally going to give, and I think that that's fine as long as Councilman Allen feels that's okay. I think it'll make a better project, so I'm good with it in that regard. I just want to make sure that, and we've had this verbal discussion back and forth, and we've gotten some answers to comments and questions, that I would like the people to come from College Park, not somewhere else. I would like us to consider the possibility of picking people who might be employees, people who might be veterans, people who might be engaged, maybe not employees of the city, but school teachers or something like that. And I assume that those kinds of caveats for the selection would come out of the discussion that you're going to pursue if we approve this, and would become part of the agreement. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm good. Joe?
Councilman Carn.
Yeah, obviously, great project. Again, partnering with our community partners. Fulton County put out a call for this, and they said, who wants to step up to the plate for an opportunity? And I'm glad we're stepping up for this opportunity. One of the things in the discussion for the slight increase in land was we wanted to have adequate parking. We also talked around the idea of having some kind of community garden within that, which would make this a nice and pleasant, living environment. So I'm excited about it. Talking with Dick Anderson, there's several different mechanisms by which our College Park residents are going to be, they will definitely have first shot at this, I do believe, and we're going to make it where within fair housing standards. But again, obviously, we want our residents with first notice and to be at the front of whatever the line looks like, if it's a submission or whatever we're going to have in terms of the mechanism. We want to make sure that our residents are aware of it. So I'm excited about it.
Councilman Allen?
Yeah, I agree with my two colleagues. I think they ought to be College Park people. I'm concerned about the creek that goes back there, to make sure that, you know, it's going to cost some money to take down some of those trees or to move around the trees. So I'm to understand it's not going to cost College Park anything other than the land that's been sitting there. I know there were townhomes supposed to go on there years ago that were never built. That land's been sitting there. So I think it's a good use. I think some tiny homes are very good on the housing projects. I've seen some that aren't so good, so I'm relying on you to make sure that they're good, because we'll be watching, especially with the noise, because the windows, those airplanes come right over the top of it there sometimes. So, yeah, I'm good with that right now.
Councilman Gay?
Yes, thank you for not bringing that to Ward 4, because I could not deal with my constituents in these tiny homes, but I think it's a marvelous project. I'd like to hear from this gentleman, because he sat here all night unemotional, and I'd like to know a little bit about what's going on.
Councilman, he gave a presentation during the workshop.
He did?
Yes, sir.
Could you I'm sorry, I had a phone call. My mother-in-law's had a stroke, so
I'm so sorry to hear.
that.
I'm Will Johnston. I'm the executive director of the Microlife Institute. We are a 501c3 nonprofit developer which built the award-winning, globally recognized pilot project over in Clarkston, the cottages on Vaughn. And so we would use certain design elements just to, like what Councilman Allen said, we want to make sure we are building a quality, well-built, sustainably built homes for College Park residents. And we're going to be working closely with Fulton County, reporting to Joe Davis, as well as working with Stanley, and I'm forgetting Stanley's last name, sorry Stanley if you're listening, to work on the application process as well. So everything that you all have addressed tonight, we'll be working with you all as well as Fulton County to address.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman Carn. Is there a second?
Second with comment.
Thank you, Councilman Allen.
Okay, I'm just going to tell you, I'll be by there every other day, so, okay.
Okay. Any other comment? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and we will resume at 10:15 p.m. Welcome back, everyone. We've had a brief break, and we are going to be moving on to item 6J, which is a motion to approve the Clayton County Land Bank Board appointment, and that would be Ms. Michelle Alexander. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Any discussion?
No discussion from me.
All right, hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 6K is a motion to approve the tsunami quitclaim deed. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Discussion, Councilman Clay?
No discussion from me.
Councilman Carn?
No.
Councilman Allen?
I'm good, thanks.
Councilman Gay?
No discussion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous as well. Item 6L is a motion to...
I so move.
Well, let me just get it out. It's a motion to replace corroded, but apparently I can't get it out. Corroded galvanized water main pipe on East Main Street from Virginia Avenue to Hawthorne Avenue. Councilman Allen, do you have a motion?
I motion for
Second.
approval. It's been 3 years, yes.
All right, thank you, Councilman Allen.
Second.
And Councilman
Second.
Clay, thank you for the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. 6M is a motion to purchase electrical material for construction and maintenance. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Gay. Discussion? Go ahead, Councilman Clay.
No discussion.
Councilman Carn?
That was, that's 6L, not 6M. right?
It is 6M because...
Oh, we moved.
Yes,
Right,
sir.
right, right.
shifted
That's right.
everything,
Yeah, we
Joe.
shifted down. Yep.
Any discussion?
No, no.
Councilman Allen?
No, thank you. You need to stay ahead of the game, so, thanks.
Councilman Gay?
No comment.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. Item 6N is a motion to adopt Resolution 2023-11, establishing a one-time utility credit for city residents who are 65 years of age or over or disabled and meet certain income requirements. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Discussion starts with Councilman Clay.
Yeah, I have to, I'd want to understand how this is going to work. For example, I can't believe that the senior exemption that we just approved to put on the ballot for November, that isn't going to pass. I got to believe it's going to pass. I can't imagine anybody that would vote against it, or not many people would vote against it. However, if it didn't pass, what would happen, because we would have approved compensation to the seniors for losing a year, essentially. And we would do it in the form of a utility credit, as I understand it. And if you get effectively a year's worth of taxes utility credit, how long would that take to work off, for one thing? So, would it, if it doesn't pass in November, when will this go into effect? This particular rebate, whatever you want to call it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If it does not pass, which I highly suspect it will, the credit, the utility credit that we're giving is the net difference that the credit, it's linked to the homestead exemption. So I think if it doesn't pass, we're still offering the utility credit as a benefit to the legislation that just recently got signed in the General Assembly for 2023 for the homestead credit.
But
it's not-
that
it's not-
legislation doesn't take effect until next year.
Correct.
If the voters approve it.
Correct.
And if the voters don't approve it, then it would never take effect next year. And I'm trying to get a feeling for what a typical benefit is. And in other words, they're going to get what they would have gotten in benefit had the legislation passed last year for this year. So let's say that the benefit to me in property taxes would have been $500. I don't know whether that's probably a sort of a realistic number. Okay, so presumably they would get that benefit for this year. We would be trying to make up what they didn't get this year because it didn't get on the agenda, on the ballot until this year. And now we've given them $500 in utility credit. If that's not used up by the time of the November election, as of the November election, we know that it didn't get missed. They didn't miss out on the $500. So do we just, I'm going to suggest that we think about it, but I'm not about to say cut it off. I'm about to say, given that case, we would just say, hey, it's a bonus to the seniors, but it's only a one-time bonus. It's not like it's going to go on every year.
Correct.
So, but I just wanted, you know me, I'm always worried about what if such and such would happen. And what if they don't use all of the utility benefit? That benefit doesn't expire at the end of this year, does it? So if
It will not, no.
if
It'll
my
just be a
utility bill were small and I got a $500 rebate essentially, and it doesn't run out by the end of the year, I can continue using it. It carries over into the next year.
Correct. There would be a credit on the account until it's absorbed by actual billings.
Okay, so that's the intent, right?
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that have thought about that
Yeah, that's a good
before
catch.
it comes
Yeah.
up and bites us.
Obviously, I'm for it. At some point, I want to get, since I'm thinking we're going to approve this, I want to get some numbers for basic income levels so people have a rough idea of what they may be looking at. Does that make sense? Everyone's not going to get the same exact amount?
No, because it's based on their property taxes.
Right. So I don't know if you could kind of give us maybe 4 tiers so you could know in what range you'd be looking at. So people can get an idea of what they're going to receive ballpark.
Okay.
If you're between here and here, or here and here, and maybe 3 tiers where you can see, well, I'm in between that one.
Okay.
So, and they don't get an exact amount, but they can see it. You're looking at between this much and this much. And that way they can kind of follow along with what this is, and there you go.
Maybe we can have that go out with the information.
But simple.
Package, yeah.
Simple, where everybody can understand it. So, yeah.
Councilman Allen?
Now, is there anything that the citizens need to do? They need to fill out a form, or is it
Yeah,
automatic?
we are working with communications. There's going to be an online website that they can fill out their application online, submit their documentation. Once we get it in, we propose that within 30 days they'd get an email back confirming we received their documentation, they're approved, and then once the vote happens and it passes, then we would issue the credit on the utility bill.
Okay. I just want to make sure we let everybody know.
No, we are working with, again, communications. We will be putting out e-blast or something in their utility bill.
Yes, that would be the
We'll be
better.
putting out on flyers some form of communication.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Councilman Gay?
So, Mr. Latonic, if we go through this exercise and they approve the tax exemption, the voters approve it, then this will give us an idea of how to administer that tax exemption going forward, right? Once we go through this process.
This year is unique because the credit is being split amongst the property tax bill and the utility bill. For 2024, the full credit will be on their property tax bill.
But it'll help us identify.
Yes, absolutely. All the residents, yeah, for the most
Help
part.
them to get a better understanding of how to qualify.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Ames, I believe there was a motion and a second, correct? All right. Thank you so much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes unanimously. Item 6O is a motion to approve the revised residential rates for summer energy cost reduction. And we had a presentation about this at our last meeting. Is there a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Any questions for Mr. Richardson? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously.
Great
Thank
thing
you,
to
Mr.
do.
Richardson.
Great thing to do.
Item 6P is a motion to approve the Second Amendment to the power purchase contract for solar power. Questions for Mr. Richardson on this item, Councilman Clay?
No, I just had a comment. I gave my comments for the last meeting, but we didn't get to this. I'm just hope it doesn't go up again.
Right.
And because the benefit is getting smaller and smaller. So that's my only comment. I'm obviously in favor of it. It's still advantageous to us, but I just hope it doesn't erode anymore. So that's it. Joe?
Councilman Carn?
Now, Hugh, so this is there was a 5-year extension? Is that what part of this is, or is that what we already extended?
What we're doing on the Second Amendment is we're going up on the energy rate. We're keeping the 15-year agreement.
Okay.
The other thing that was removed is they originally had a 15-year agreement with MEAG, have an option to purchase it after 15 years. They removed that option.
Okay. And this First Amendment jumped from back down to 15?
Right.
Okay, got it. Okay. All right.
Councilman Allen?
No, I don't have any questions.
Councilman Gay?
No questions.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. We'll move on to item 6Q, which is a motion to approve the renewal of fiscal year 23-24 professional services agreement between the City of College Park and Ignite Resource Center, CP. Questions, Councilman Clay?
Well, this is wrong. The original paperwork that I saw was confusing, and I sent a note back, and what came out was just plain wrong. You guys aren't requesting any fees. This would be the first year that Ignite, they still want to do the same job that they've been doing, but they've had so much in the way of successful donations and what have you, that they are not asking for the city to pay for their administrative services. So this connecting people with resources, because they've been able, in addition to do that, they've been able to gather resources, they have become essentially self-sufficient. So the only thing we're proving tonight is an agreement to continue using their services, as I understand it, and they're not charging us anything for it. Did I say that right?
Yeah, and actually, what we, initially, it was Adulam Ministries, which I am the CEO of Adulam Ministries, and Ignite was a project that we formed specifically, Ignite Resource Center, CP, was formed specifically for the City of College Park. Ignite now has its own 501c3, is its own independent organization. I am no longer the executive director of Ignite. Rose Stewart is involved. We just did not want to have any type of conflict of interest regarding the city meeting. We're still going to provide the services, whether the contract is approved this evening or not, because we know how valuable the service is. But we are not asking, regardless, we're not asking for any money. We just want to continue to serve the city.
But you would, I think it's a good idea to have the same agreement. It's just that you're not charging for it.
We're not charging, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate to have it on the agenda as a contract. Just like I said in BITA the other day, even if the attorney contract was not necessary, so to speak, we didn't want to have an existing wrong contract. And I think it's a good idea that we have the contract to spell out what the services are so everybody knows who's doing what. But I don't think it's...
If I might, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Just to be clear, the agreement still requires the city to provide the use of city facilities like the GICC
Right.
and the Wyatt Center for certain events, but no money.
No money, correct.
What was that again? I missed part of it.
The contract would still call for the city to provide Ignite access to the GICC and the Wyatt Center for, I think, for 3 specific events that they're having. So the contract itemizes those 3 events and the city facility that would be available to them to conduct those events.
The city never charged Ignite for use of those facilities before, but in addition, they paid them a fee to do this brokering function and to run these additional things. And we're saying no fee, but we're not going to charge Ignite to use our facility to give services to our people.
Exactly. And Rose Stewart will be the signer on the contract, so I will no longer be the signer.
Right.
Councilman Carn?
Well, if we're doing it, city attorney, we want to correct the signature name on that contract here. If she's no longer the chair, CEO, or whatever it is, so, yeah. All right.
Councilman Allen?
The only question, I think Ignite does a fantastic job, and I appreciate everything you do every year, and I'm usually out at every single one of them, so and I still will be out at every single one of them. But what I just heard, so if they use, I don't want to set a precedent where somebody comes in and says, okay, well, they used it and didn't pay anything. Will we be setting any kind of precedent, or?
No, sir, because we're not just letting them use it. They're providing a valuable service to the city. So if someone else wants to come along and use it, well, if they're providing the same level of service, then you might consider that. But that would be the distinction. Ignite would be providing a valuable service to the city. In exchange for that, we are allowing them to use those facilities.
Okay, do we do other people like that? I just was,
no, we could, but, obviously it would be based on the circumstances. Ignite provides those services, and so I don't think anybody, to my knowledge, and I've been sitting up here for a while, has ever said, well, I want to provide a level of service to the city of College Park. In exchange for that, I want you to let me use the GICC or other facilities. Some people just come and ask for stuff, but the quid pro quo, I'm going to provide a lot of services at my own expense. I've not seen that.
okay, I mean, I thought were all city events basically when you all were there, so, okay. You said there's 3 events?
I believe there are 3.
Mainly, we've been having 3 events. So Ignite has been having 3 events, which is the...
Sure, we have, of course, we have the Christmas program event that we have every year where we provide gifts, and then we also make sure we provide things for the seniors. During the Thanksgiving part of the year, we have the turkey giveaway and food drive, and then around this time of the year, we also have back to school event. So we do have 3 major events.
Okay, I thought back to school was just a big event, okay, with everything. Okay.
Councilman Gay?
Yeah, Yes, I had a couple of questions. This year, we would like to host our own book bag event. We've always done it. It got moved to consolidate, but we would like to, I just want to make this, that we would like for the Ward 4 back-to-school event to take place that it has done for the last 6 years. Maybe some of the other wards want to, have separate back-to-school events. And the second is, you say you no longer are you not on the board? You taking your name off the board of directors? Are you, Ms. McKenzie, are you just stepping down as an employee?
Well, I was never an employee. I haven't received a penny.
No, that's the question is, are you not no longer on the board?
Ignite has its own board. So now what's happening is it was operating under the board, the Doolin board, which I am the CEO. Now I have stepped away, and Ms. Rose, I'm just going to be a consultant in terms of because of the transition. So we're doing a transition, but I'm.
Let me clarify the question. Is Ignite now a wholly owned board, or is it still under Abdullah? That's my question. It
is completely a 501c3 unto itself. It's a separate entity.
Congratulations.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So, City Manager, for the record, Ward 4 would like to have its own Ward 4 back-to-school events separate from Unite. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That is unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's the end of the sixes. We're on to the city attorney's report.
Nothing this evening, ma'am.
City manager's report.
Yes, Mayor, I have quite a bit, but I will keep it brief and respecting how long our evening has been, and we've got to go back into another meeting. But I do want to talk globally about a couple of new items, new tools, so to speak, that we've presented to the mayor and council over the last couple of meetings. The council agenda memorandum, in addition to all of the detail that the council receives for each of these agenda items to give backgrounds, the council agenda memorandum is intended not only to summarize what these items are in terms of the staff's recommendation, some background, but very importantly to always know that even though the staff largely drives the agendas, that is always tied to the policy direction that has been received from the mayor and city council, particularly in the form of identifying very clearly the tie to the budget and now strategic connections. You approve the strategic plan, and so if an item doesn't fit somewhere within the strategic plan, then it shouldn't make the agenda. It's an effort to revitalize, to make sure that we are following the strategic plan, because ultimately that gets us a little bit closer to the vision of the community that the community certainly has participated in, even though the council may have ultimately endorsed it. I think the other value of the council agenda memorandum, we don't expect our neighbors to have to go through the hundreds of pages that they have kind of elected you to get to that level of detail as presented from the staff. So our neighbors who are interested, and we haven't gotten this publicized as well as we will in the future, but wanting to understand each of these agenda items written in simple language with acronyms and abbreviations made clear. Another way of saying that we're being transparent about the city's business. This weekend, I sent to you ahead of the meeting another, I think, very important item that is tied to the policy that drives us, the city charter itself. The city charter provides that the city manager will provide to the mayor and council monthly reports. So I'm happy to introduce to you the first report that, even to my surprise and to the credit of the community building leadership team, they took the exercise that they know will be a regular exercise, not monthly, but every 2 weeks, to give you some idea of what is going on. These reports, and this one happens to be 50 pages long, it's not perfected yet. We'll have reformatting, we'll continue to work on the substance of it, but what I'm asking the community building leadership team representing each department of the organization is to present to you in narrative, easy to understand format that will also be shared with the public ultimately after you've received it. What are the issues that are going on? Think of it in terms of even a SWOT analysis internally. What do we have to celebrate? Maybe accomplishments, but it shouldn't be an accomplishments report. I'm calling it strategic performance report, also tied to our strategic plan. But what are challenges? What are threats from an external standpoint? How does it tie to the strategic plan? So it will be a report that becomes better and better each time. Hopefully, it won't always be 50 pages long, but whatever it takes to be transparent so that you know everything that's going on. And I encourage you to also ask questions all along. If it doesn't take place at this meeting, certainly you have the benefit of the written report to ask on any issue or anything that you want covered going forward. So I will stop there without really going into further details except to highlight in each report, even though it's organized by departments, the first part of the report, which will probably be the first several pages, is what I will be writing to you directly. And this first edition, of course, went into the strategic plan itself and the importance of it, and make sure that we're following it. What are those goals that lead to ultimately fulfilling the vision of the community? And the charter also speaks to the city manager's responsibility to present for the city council's approval an organized, efficient administration. And you know, I've spoken to you about the need to do some restructuring. I will tell you that at this point, based on this continuing exercise, that it will be a pretty comprehensive presentation that I will be making to you. I think we're going to be a more effective and efficient organization, but I certainly think it will be in keeping with what the charter intended in that very broad language. It will also tie to the strategic plan, specifically the goals of the organization. So the organization will be based not only on the charter's requirement, but strategically, how can we be most effective? So a lot more to come, and then you've got another 45 pages or so of updates from departments, community building leadership team, and I do want to thank them publicly for taking this exercise very earnestly to produce, I think, an initial good report that will only improve. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hawthorne. We're moving on to the report of mayor and council. Councilman Clay?
Okay. Well, first off, I read your report, Stanley, and I was very impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought your introduction was really great. I thought the different staff areas that reported were great as well. They obviously will improve with time, but I thought it was a good synopsis. It didn't go on for, went on for a lot of pages, but each individual report wasn't nearly as voluminous as back in the old days that we used to get. So I think it's a really good compromise. I know that Councilman Karn had been pushing for something like that, and I worried that it would be too voluminous, but I think what you generated is a really good compromise, so I'm pleased with that. Another area that I wanted to address was our new chief building inspector, and I'm concerned. I don't know about Hawthorne development. I sent an email to Joe, you, and Roderick saying I was staying out of that development. It's in your wards, but I wonder if they've gotten around to re-inspecting the model homes, because the model homes were not meeting the noise requirements. I made measurements there myself, and I think that hopefully the chief building inspector is going to touch bases with Pond, because he's going to be taking over for them, and verify the requirements. And I assume he understands the sound requirements. Obviously, he wouldn't be chief building inspector. But I think that's an area that we want to make sure during that handoff that we not drop a stitch and miss some of those houses or miss the model homes that at the time I saw with the ribbon cutting, they weren't making the grade. I noticed a pile of building material on College Street today in between Lyle and Mercer. And our code, we don't pick up building material. The contractor is supposed to pick that up. I don't know what our policy is now, but it has always been, and I see Tim in the back, that we expect the contractors to pick that up. If you do your own work, that's a different thing, you know, but I don't think they're doing their own work. I think it's probably a case of the contractor taking advantage. But I just want to emphasize that point. I've seen other things around the ward, and I expect it's probably in other wards as well, where things have been out there that shouldn't be picked up by Public Works. They ought to be taken care of by the owner. The one thing that I miss on the packet, I like the streamlined approach, great, but there is no indication to me that, for example, the city attorney has reviewed it, or the different departments. We used to have a list of who had approved it, and sometimes I would say, wait a minute, why wasn't this approved by such and such department? Why weren't they on the list? And it was frequently, it was the city attorney that I asked that question about, but sometimes it was other departments. So that just be, and maybe it's as simple as you, when you sign it, you say, all the departments have approved it. I mean, we don't need to know the date that they approved it. We don't need to know the specific departments, but you're the city manager. If you say, hey, I've checked that, they've all reviewed it, it's all okay. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know. I leave that up to you, but I'm just saying that's something I miss, because I have this feeling, gee, did Winston really see that? And to the point that came up with Ignite tonight, actually then there was some other set of contracts that I commented on, and we got an update. But I shouldn't be catching those things, that some department head should catch those, whether it be Winston or somebody else. I think it's more in the contract area, so it's probably more in Winston's bailiwick. And I'm really happy with your report, as I said, but I hope we're still going to keep the packets out online, on the public, so that the public can see what we see. And we made that breakthrough several years ago, and I think some of the public appreciate it at least. And I think for most of them, your report, I don't know, are you intending to put that report online, or is that going to be?
Yes, it's still online. In fact, that's what I was following through the agenda of this evening. So, yes, the public still has access to both the cams and the backup as well.
Great.
And all of your comments are noted, and we'll fine tune accordingly.
Okay. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Councilman Carn?
All right, a few things here. I want to send out a few condolences. First to Mr. Glenroy Johnson and his wife on the passing of his brother. I was really sorry to hear that. He's one of our residents over on Camp Creek. Also condolences to Mr. Darrell Anderson and his family on the loss of his father, Mr. Benny Anderson. Also, to the Gay family, hopefully everything's okay with Mom. Nobody's promised tomorrow, you know. Couple of things I did want to discuss. That accident on Camp Creek and Herschel Road I witnessed today. That was really something that was funny. I was on the phone with Chief Rogers, and after I hung up, maybe 30 seconds later, happened almost right in front of me. I was maybe 3 cars behind at the light, and I saw it go across. I think the big issue there is that yellow light, that yellow arrow option, making a left off of Camp Creek onto Herschel Road. That's probably one of the highest incident intersections that we have in this city, I would think, without question. And I want to see if we can get GDOT to maybe take that yellow option out, because you can't make a left turn because the front lane inhibits your view of what's to the left of it, the 2 lanes of Camp Creek, and that's why there's so many frequent accidents. If it's green, then those cars have to stop. If it's red, you know you can't try to get across there, and I think that may help with that situation, but I'd like maybe GDOT to do an assessment. There's certainly enough accidents to qualify for some changes at that intersection, sure to goodness. So if we can look at that, that was a bad accident today, and it looked like most of the folks were okay. I saw them pull a kid out of the back seat, a 4-year-old, and I had never seen an accident like that at that speed. I mean, all the side airbags came on. I mean, I saw them, and that car leaped 30 feet into the BP service station yard. I mean, it was really something. It was really something. Okay, a couple other things. City manager, I cannot express how much of a relief it was to see that informational update succinct and put together. It was almost like gravity had reasserted itself in College Park. Knowing what's going on is so important, and for me, I make much better decisions if we know what's happening, because everything is connected in one way or another. So excellent, organized updates and reports. It's so glad to. I'm so glad to get that again. Again, being informed makes our life easier for what we're trying to do here. So glad to hear that that's starting back. It really looked great. One thing I wanted everyone to kind of be aware of, we were discussing the possibility of an intergovernmental agreement between Fulton County and College Park, and this is about, and I touched on this at a few meetings actually. Essentially, as you all know, we're mostly multifamily by far, heavy rental. Due to that fact, there are a lot of issues that go on in our multifamily, of course. Evictions and writs of dispossessory is a pressing issue in College Park because we're so heavy rental. The only entity that's allowed to handle writs of dispossessory and evictions, as well as, execution of criminal warrants, so on and so forth, is Fulton County Marshals. The Fulton County Marshals. The Fulton County Sheriff's Office can serve, but only the marshals can do writs of dispossessory and evictions. Okay, now, they're only looking at about 64 service officers for writs for evictions in a county that's 1.2 million people. Now, what does that mean? That means there's a long waiting list. And for College Park at 75% rental, that issue is, we're gonna suffer from the lack of it more acutely than the average city. So what I talked about with Fulton County was the possibility of doing an arrangement where, with the Marshal Service, we're in such need of that. And I really can't, to explain to y'all how long it actually takes for an eviction process to happen. 8 months is routine in College Park. And it makes it impossible to keep our apartment communities intact, in a sense. The damage that we deal with, there's a lot of issues with criminality and things that we deal with because we're not able to process what we're supposed to process in a timely manner. Now, we're looking to reform multifamily. The recommendation was essentially we would do a partnership with the Fulton County Marshal's Office. We would have one Fulton County Marshal assigned exclusively to College Park for writs of dispossessory, evictions, or criminal warrants. The idea is that we would pay that one salary and cover that, and that person would be for us exclusively, being that we're so heavy rental, and that would eliminate a lot of issues within our apartment communities. Our managers, our residents, and everyone, let me tell you, would be a whole lot better served if we got some direct service in a city unlike the other cities. Again, with so heavy apartments, I think this is something we need to look at. There's a draft agreement, and city manager, I want to see if we can get it on one of the next agendas to look at it as soon as possible, but I think it would be a big help to clean things up and improve the city overall, and this is for all wards, because we all have apartment communities and rental communities. Last thing I do have, I understand on Friday, City Hall closed early, as in 2 p.m. early. Now, I understand, we've done things along those lines before. The only difference here was none of the council members were informed that we were doing this. I'm going to say it again. Maybe the mayor was informed, but none of the council members were informed that we were closing early. And I got calls from 2 residents that came up here about 2:45 to pay utility bills or handle city business or whatever have you. They're calling me saying, well, the doors are locked and the sash is down on the drive-through, and are y'all closed? I said, well, I didn't know if we were closed or not. I made some calls, and it turns out we were closed. Now, we got the holiday that was Monday, and I can understand it in a sense, but we need to be informed so we can let our residents know. Second of all, the residents that called me said, well, there was no sign on the door or any notification, so we did not know. Now, there was a notice on the website, but that's such a half-hearted effort because on our city website, if 12 people go on our website daily, that would be a record. So that's not exactly the best informative base for something like that that's happening, especially coming into a holiday weekend, and you're not going to be open on Monday as well. We do have where we can do the dial around. We do have an email list that we can get together as well. Now, what we decide to do in terms of closing, I think that's something we all need to be aware of, though. But in fairness, our next door neighbors, the city of East Point, did not close Friday. They were closed Friday at 5. City of South Fulton, they were open. They closed at 5. Hateville was open. They closed at 5. The city of Sandy Springs, Councilmember Kelly city. They were open until 5. But whatever we're gonna do, I think we need to all be informed. So I'll just leave that at that. Last thing, Miss Jessie Phillips, she asked a question, I guess in terms of the senior discount thing. It was just, what if a senior doesn't have email capacity? So that's a good question. I guess if we got something that covers that, somebody can find out for us. I think that's all that I've got. I know we're gonna, get this budget squared away, and it starts July 1st. I want to make sure that we allocate some funds for a long overdue Juneteenth event of some type. Nothing of any substantial, necessarily big cost, but I think we do need to do something. I think that's something that has been overlooked. Sometimes it's hard to get things done up here. Sometimes, we try to get as much as we can in, but I think that's very important. So I want to make sure we don't forget about that next year, and that we are cognizant that it's not lost on us what the holiday is for. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. Councilman Allen?
Okay, just a couple of things here. First of all, last week I want to welcome all of the new employees we had. Marcus, Emmanuel, welcome. Great to have you on board. Echo the same sentiments of the other two councilmen. That city manager report's great. I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, look how long this thing is. And I got to reading it, and it is very, very good. So thank you for your report. I like the new setup for the council. I appreciate that very much. And speaking of new employees, I want to thank Tim back there and Sabrina for filling in and doing a fantastic job for the time that they were here, supporting and making our city run. So, Tim, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. So, yes. We had a new standard learning center that opened May the 25th out on Phoenix Boulevard. It's actually 1631 Phoenix Boulevard, Suite 8, and where people can get training to get their nursing certificates. So if you know of anybody in that area that's looking to try to further their education, they can go and get training and get a nursing certificate there. Your all's work with Good Neighbor ribbon cutting was fantastic. State Farm and the Atlanta Hawks, excuse me, make that place look great. So thank you very much. And glad to see that work's finally getting done on East Main. So Tim, thank you for everything you did on that. Excuse me. Police Department, last thing. Great work on apprehending the guy that where there was a murder in over at Princeton Village the other day. So you apprehended a guy in like 24 hours. So it was great work. So thank you very much, and tell your folks good job. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Councilman Gay?
Yes, a couple things. Councilman Corn, I agree with you about these traffic accidents. Sunday, we witnessed an equally bad accident at Global Gateway and Riverdale. Global Gateway and Riverdale. We need a turn light. I talked to Major Patterson and Major Ward, and they're going to get with Mr. Myers to see how they can get with GDOT, because what the issue is that we need a arrow on all 4 turns. I saw that young lady laying in the street Sunday. It's horrible. So we really need to get those arrows, because it's a blind spot when you get to the top of the hill. So you just take a chance when you turn left. And if it's a bad time, you could get injured. So thank you, Councilman Corn, for bringing that to my attention. I also like to thank the city manager. When I saw that, I thought I was seeing things. I said, what the world? I almost called you a nerd, man. But you know, I tell you, it was a great report, and I am really, like you, I'm looking forward to just sitting down and reading it, because it is an awesome report. I'm just really blown away. The next thing is the Lottie Miller renaming, which culminates the Coming Home reunion. I would like to recommend that you all get with both Sabritha and Sabrina. Those ladies are actually from College Park, and they also are very active with the Coming Home reunion, so they could be of a great help in making that a successful turnout. To Councilmember Clay's point about Rockland Homes, when Gary, what is the airport guy? Gary Young. Gary Young, our former airport affairs director, he and I talked about holding Rockland Homes to some standard before they even built the houses. You know, I thought then that was an opportunity to measure the noise, and then before they built those houses. But I sent emails, and I sent a lot of emails, so we were concerned about. I think one thing we could do, I don't think they're going to take windows out their walls, but I think one thing we could do, we make a look at installation, if that's not in the ceiling, because when the Foyer group was building Hawthorne Station, that was one of the main criteria that they agreed on in the development agreement that would minimize the noise. In fact, we actually went to the previous subdivision, and they shared with us the foam. So there could still be an opportunity to put foam to minimize the noise. I'd like to give an announcement that Fulton County Workforce Development, if anybody got teenagers at home not working, need a job, Fulton County Workforce Development has jobs. There's a Sandy Springs office, and then there's a South Fulton Annex office. And they're also online, and I actually found that out because I was at the College View Housing Complex helping a lady get a voucher when I saw the Workforce Development truck. And I went up in the truck, and there it is. You can actually get a job. They actually have jobs. Congratulations to Sasami Volleyball, Mr. Jeff McClellan. I know you worked hard. It's been a long time, and I think that's going to be an exciting opportunity for our community. My daughter, who is now 20, told me, Dad, it's not fair that when we were young, we couldn't afford to some, and now you helping bring them here. And I told her that's just how life is. It's like that. So congratulations to Sami. Now, I would be remiss, Mayor, if I didn't address some of the concerns that was raised here tonight in public comment. I know people have left, but we do have an opportunity to still talk and be heard through our internet. I first of all think that those people have a right to come and say anything they want. In fact, I love to see that. I learned a lot tonight. I learned more tonight than I knew before the incident. So thank you for, letting me learn from you. That was number one. Number two, it was a lot about election. I don't think anybody said anything about elections. I don't recall anybody saying anything about an election. I think that group that came tonight talked about an election. A couple things. I left for a couple reasons. One, I was feeling horrible. I mean, it wouldn't have took much for me to walk out. I was ready to go anyways. But that's, I'm just being, making light of it. But walking out is probably the most fundamental expressions of freedom that anybody can do. I remember one time I was in court when I was a kid, the judge says, we're not in the wild, wild west no more. You just can't go be shooting at people. And I thought about that. And then, when you listen to the news, when you go home tonight and listen to the news, I'm sorry, Mr. Narkov, I'm sorry, but when you go home and listen to the news, you're going to see so many people that are committing crimes in the moment, In fact, we've had 5 homicides in our city. So where's my point? Walking out is a fundamental expression. It's nonviolent. It doesn't say anything. You read into it. And I want to put this in some perspective. When Dr. King was in Birmingham, he had went to Birmingham to do a protest, and he got jailed. And we had a Morehouse person here. I'm a Morehouse parent. I put one through Morehouse. We paid the $300,000, whatever, but maybe 200. It's a lot. But when Dr. King was in prison, in jail in Birmingham, he wrote the famous letter, penned letter from the jail. But the point of the letter was that there was this group of blacks who was condemning him for his protest. They were educated. They were clergy. They kind of reminded me of some people tonight. And they actually were condemning this man for having the audacity to walk, to come down to their city and protest. So he said in this jail cell, I'm up against two plights. One is, I stand for what I'm convicted. I'm willing to die for it, actually. But yet the same people that I'm fighting for, they're attacking me. And it takes a lot for you to be strong in your convictions when the same people who you believe that you're representing are in fact attacking you. And then, I don't want to be so profound, but I do want to say, when you come up Main Street, me and my wife, we talk about this all the time. We talk about this all the time. When we drive up Main Street from East Point, 3 years ago, we met a gentleman, I'm about finished, we met a gentleman who owned the gas station, the Pure gas station. He was a black man who put his children through Woodward. He owns a daycare center, and I found his number through one of the local realtors, and I called him. I said, hey, I want to conserve the Pure gas station. It's one of the few gas stations left in this country, here in College. I said, I want to preserve that. He says, look, man, my wife and I bought that when our children went to Woodward. We thought it would be a good investment, but, you know, have at it. Here's the key. So at our expense, my family expense, we went and got a band, a jazz band. We went out there, and people was walking by. Some lady came out with a dog. Oh, you're doing God's will. Oh, that's so good, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, today, 3 years later, Main Street looked bad, just as bad as it looked 3 years ago. And we even gave the guy who bought it an EPA grant. We even took the deed out of his name, put it in our name, gave him phase 1, phase 2 environmental assessment, and it still sit there. The gas stations look just as raunchy. In fact, in my ward, I don't even allow that. You can't even act like that in my ward. No, sir, you can't. I'm sorry. And I know everybody in my ward. I know everybody in my ward. Everybody. You don't come to my ward and you don't act like that. But on Main Street, where it's supposed to be so proper, so pure, the voice of the people spoke tonight. You're not even looking as good as we are. And the final thing I want to say is we want to talk about votes. There's 8,235 registered voters in College Park. 30 people who represent one constituent don't speak for College Park because change, and I finish, change goes through 3 phases. It's ridiculed, it's opposed, and in November it'll be accepted as self-evidence. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. We were here 2 weeks ago, and I talked a good bit about how politics unfolds and how it can just be really kind of gross. You see the performative aspects of it, and then there's the back room, slap it on your back kind of stuff. And, you have the winks and the nods in the back and, vitriol up front. How does it make us better? How do we get better? There were some comments, and I've heard the innuendo about some connection that my sister-in-law's ex-husband has to someone else that I've never met, and I don't know. But I want to talk a little bit about conflicts of interest, because 3 years ago, I sent an email. And I'm just going to read the whole email, and I'm going to send it again, just in case someone doesn't have it. Because I want to be clear about where I stand. And it was addressed to my colleague in Ward 4, but I'm just going to read the whole thing because people need to understand where we are. And so it's dated, let's see, it is dated June 29th, 2020. Councilman Gay, I attempted to reach you via telephone, but you did not answer. I wanted to ensure you received the full information about which you'd inquired. It has come to my attention you asked Mr. Latona about properties owned in the city by Thomas Hills. I can only assume you made this request because he is the husband of my sister-in-law. He is now the ex-husband of my sister-in-law. It would seem rather odd otherwise. Let me set the record straight. At no time in the past, currently, or otherwise, have I had any business dealings with Thomas Hills. He has been involved in buying, and selling real estate in Metro Atlanta for many years before I knew him. In fact, most of his holdings in College Park were purchased before I met and married my husband. He has not engaged in any real estate transactions with the city since my election as mayor. I have already had conversations with both Dan, being Dan Lee, and Artie Jones regarding any matter involving Thomas Hills that may come before BIDA. I have asked for and plan to do the following. 1, that I receive no information about the proposed transaction. 2, I will not participate in any executive session discussions regarding any proposed transaction. 3, I will not vote on any proposed transaction. I recognize in the past others have fostered a culture of distrust and backroom dealings in regard to their service to this city. I do not have anything to hide, however. I wish you'd simply ask me about it before surreptitiously requesting this information. If you have any questions regarding the above information, please do not hesitate to contact me. I appreciate your commitment to our city and look forward to a productive rest of the year. It's a distraction, folks. There's some stuff swimming around, and it's about 1.14 acres of a 300-acre development from a guy who has divorced my sister-in-law. Their business dealings are separated, and I understand that there were comments of public comment about some allegations from the Southern Poverty Law Center. None of that ever says anything about a broom. And it's really unfortunate that I even have to address this. But any suggestion otherwise is meant to confuse and conflate matters that aren't connected. 3 years ago, I sent that email. Haven't heard a word. Haven't had any questions about it. We hear about it now. It's unfortunate. In her song, Rumors, Lizzo says, spending all your time trying to break a woman down. Realer stuff is going on, baby. Take a look around. And so I want to talk about the work, because we've had a lot of work to do, and we've been doing a lot of work. And you should know about the work that we are doing in this city. And right after our meeting about a month ago, I headed straight to Washington, D.C. to talk with the offices of all of our representatives, with the Georgia Municipal Association. We talked at the time about the debt ceiling. because that was a crucial issue. And we're so glad that we're beyond that, because that would have had broad implications for our entire country and certainly folks in the state of Georgia. We are going to, we talked about some of the challenges facing communities of our size, that there's a bunch of federal money available, but we may not have the access. And we talked about how we prioritized in our budget this year hiring a grant writer to make sure that we have those opportunities, because we know it can make the difference in getting those federal funds. I also had the opportunity to attend the North Clayton High School graduation, and it was amazing. Danielle Cofield, their valedictorian, is going to Georgia Tech, and she is a Gates Millennium Scholar. She is getting a full ride to college. If she wants to go to grad school, they'll pay for that too. Amazing kids doing amazing work right here in our community. I was proud to represent our city. South Park Cottages had their ribbon cutting, and we got to celebrate the largest micro home community in this state, the 7th largest in the country, and the only Black developed one in the entire United States. Booker T. Washington chose College Park for that project, and we are thrilled. He is getting attention across the country and internationally for this project, and we should be proud of that. We really should. At the end of May, and I think I may have gotten, there we go, yes. There was an event at the GICC for the PACT Act, which is an act that lets veterans qualify for additional services because they've earned them. We had almost 700 veterans come from far and wide to the Georgia International Convention Center to meet with the VA, to meet with the State Department of Veterans Affairs, to get the resources that they have earned. And it's crucial timing, because the PACT Act was passed in August of 2022. And right now, folks can apply for PACT Act coverage, and it will relate back to the signing of the bill. After October 31st, it will be their filing date. So it's crucial that we get and reach out to as many veterans as possible. And so I want to thank the Warrior Alliance for setting this up. Jared Turner did an amazing job on that project. Chick-fil-A came through and did all the lunch for everyone there. AT&T, Verizon, so many people contributed to making sure that our veterans have the resources that they need. So grateful for all of their help. Our Recreation and Cultural Arts Department did an amazing Senior by Senior showcase. It was so cool. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I didn't put the video up here, but they were dancing all over the place. It was such a great event, so well organized, turned out so well, and the Good Neighbor ribbon cutting as well. Just amazing work by our Recreation and Cultural Arts Department to make sure that we are providing the services to a community that is so deserving of it. And I know you work every single day, you and your team, to do great work. Wanted to thank the Neighborhood Association for their hard work on the block party. It was amazing, it really was. And it was a fantastic opportunity to connect with a number of folks who maybe haven't had as much exposure to our community with, coming out of COVID. And so it was a great return to all of the things that we love about our community. Had the opportunity to participate in a workforce development call with the White House, one of about half a dozen mayors in the state, talking about some of the opportunities that are available on the federal level so we can tie the needs of our workforce into the community. And I know that I passed that on to you, Mr. Hawthorne, and you distributed it to the department heads as well, because it's vitally important information. If we've got this opportunity to connect on that level, we really should. Wanted to commend Ms. Alexander and her team for the selection of a broker for 6 West. It's a really important move, and very excited about Stream Realty. because they've got a great track record, and I think that they're going to help us take things to a new level. And I'm excited about the chance that we have to partner with that and really move forward on the project. I know it's not only our community that's watching us, but the development world in general. And I think the selection of Stream and the relationship moving forward speaks volumes about your work, your team's work, and how this project is going to be received in the broader community. So thank you. Been working with Carl Vinson Institute of Government to get better data about institutional investors in our city, and talking with our partners at Aerotropolis Alliance about that as well, because we might be broadening that to get a better grip on how institutional investors are impacting College Park and surrounding areas. So that, more to come on that, but it's really interesting data to be able to share. And Ms. Ames, you went a little bit far. There we go. This past Friday, had the opportunity to share some time with two mayors that I am a big fan of, Mayor Patty Garrett from Decatur and Mayor Kim Learned from Peachtree City. TurkNet Leadership Group invited us for a discussion about women in leadership. And it was a room of about 100 people who had some great questions, and I always learn a great deal from each of these women and appreciate serving with them. Mayor Garrett's also on the board of directors of the Georgia Municipal Association, and she is such a gem. They're doing great work in Decatur, especially around some housing policy and other things, and so they're great folks to learn from, and Peachtree City is doing amazing things as well. Mayor Learned is probably one of the foremost leaders in the state for city-county relations and really bringing all the stakeholders to the table. And her example is something that we should all live by. I wanted to thank our ATL Airport District, our GICC staff, and Economic Development for the networking event that happened at the golf course last week. I heard it was an outstanding event and well enjoyed by all. I'm sorry I can't be in two places at once, but I know that things went well. And back to Ms. Johnson again. See, there's just so many things to talk about. But we spent some time this afternoon starting to shape up the historical marker project that will go in 6 West, and had a great conversation with Georgia State about that. And the folks from FOA were there, Ms. Abdullah and Ms. Hightower, and so we're getting stakeholders on board to make sure that that is a project that is respectful, that honors and treasures the history that we are trying to share. So looking forward to developments on that in the next few months. And they actually took a trip to Ackworth to see what they had done in regard to preserving African American history in Ackworth, and came back with some ideas as well. So the Atlanta Regional Commission has selected me and mayors from East Point, Stockbridge, Doraville, leaders in Rockdale County and other counties for the Local Leadership Housing Action Committee. We are serving about 6 months on that committee, and we had our meeting today and talked a little bit about some specific statistics in College Park in regard to how rental units have changed in the last 5 years or so. It's actually from 2016 to 2021. We have seen a nearly 40% decrease of rents of less than $500. We have seen a nearly 30% decrease of rents in the $500 to $999 range. We've seen an over 200% increase in rents in the $1,000 to $1,499 range, and a 525% increase in rents in the $1,500 to $1,999 range. Interestingly enough, though, we were the only community where there was a surplus of housing, of rental housing. Every other community that was participating had a dearth of housing. And we're getting it, we meet once a month, and I think next month we're going to be talking about the quality of that housing supply, because I think it's very important. It's one thing to have the numbers, but I think that we know from an empirical standpoint that what we've got isn't meeting the needs of our community. And so how do we, with a quote-unquote surplus, actually meet the needs and meet the standards that everyone would expect? So it's been a really informative, eye-opening committee thus far, and looking forward to continuing to have those discussions with our peers. And over the past weekend, went back to DC again, saw a development called Sycamore and Oak. And I think that it has the real potential to help us think broader about how we are addressing some of our more underserved areas of our city. It is a 20,000 square foot retail entertainment village with a food hall that focuses on arts and wellness, but it is also an incubator for businesses. It wraps in returning citizens who have been formerly incarcerated and trains them. It provides businesses with support on the legal front, on the accounting front, and it's an investment not only in brick and mortar, which it actually is all wood, but it's an investment in people. It is an amazing opportunity, and I think that we might be able to take some of the lessons from it and think about how we get better every single day, because that's why we're here. We're trying to get better every day. But I think all 5 of us are going to be in Savannah later on this week. The Georgia Municipal Association is celebrating its 90th anniversary, and our convention starts at the end of the week. I serve as the 3rd vice president of the Georgia Municipal Association. Thinking after this weekend, if things go the way they're supposed to be, I will come back as the 2nd vice president, which will make me chair of the Federal Policy Committee. And so all that work in DC will probably pay off. We're expecting to see the chief of staff from Senator Ossoff's office, who I saw last month when I was in DC. So we will be reiterating the priorities of College Park while we're there. I'm also participating in a panel discussion with the head of the Department of Community Affairs, Christopher Nunn, and Mayor Miller from Macon, and a representative from the Georgia Chamber. So I'm looking forward to that discussion because it's going to be on the thing that we talk about a lot, housing, and how we get better, how we make better partnerships, how the business community, how local governments, how state government, how we can all work together to address some of the critical housing needs that we have in the state of Georgia. And not sure about the rest of you, but I've got 3 classes lined up. I am going to be in disaster preparedness, entrepreneur-friendly cities, and trends in urban design, because we should always be trying to get better and learning from what we're doing on a daily basis. And so I appreciate all of the efforts that the Georgia Municipal Association does and the opportunities they give us for learning, growing, and training. But before we leave, we've got a pension board meeting on Thursday morning, and that's some important stuff that we've got to talk about. It's at 9:30, right back in this room. So I look forward to seeing as many people as possible. It is open to the public. I've gotten some questions about that. So please, employees, anyone else who wants to join, feel free to join us there. Tomorrow, got my monthly one-on-ones. They are full for tomorrow, but our next date is July 18th. If you would like to sit down with me and chat, I'm happy to chat. And if that date doesn't work for you, we can find something else. Give Ms. Calloway a call at 404-669-3755. Mr. Hawthorne, amazing report. It's unanimous. We all loved it. Keep it up. It's great. I think we need to decide how we move forward. And we've got a choice. Do we do it with division and fear? I don't think so. I think how we move forward as a community is with promise, knowing that our best days are ahead of us. And I think we do it with passion, understanding that what we do collectively will be far greater than what any one of us can do individually. And lastly, I think we do it with positivity, because there is far, far, far too much tearing down of one another in this world. We have a choice, and we can lift each other up. Let's choose that. Let's choose it every time. We've got a great opportunity here in our city. We've got great people, great resources, and I'm so proud to work on behalf of this city. And I thank you for that opportunity. And at this time, I will take a motion to enter into executive session for the discussion of real estate.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Clay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Carn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. That is unanimous. We'll go back into executive session.